Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aaron Shack Politics. We are starting our political coverage for the evening here. This is election night 2024. We're excited because obviously a lot of the American public has cast their votes at this point by now, and polls in almost all locations are, starting to shut down as time goes by. So I've been monitoring some stuff as the night has been going, and I want to just kind of show everybody what we're looking at this point. So if you haven't already checked out the channel, Aaron Shack Politics, we are going to be covering a number of issues on the channel, making sure that we hit all the political issues that matter to you across the United States and even globally in some senses. But let's take a look at what the Associated Press has here. You can easily find this yourself on Google, but yeah, you can pull this up, and it's kind of an easy visual reference that we can look at, right? So what the Associated Press has done is they have figured out sort of which states, how much is reporting, like the percentage of the vote that has been counted. So that's, for example, here in Texas, it says 72% reporting. So it's not 100%. Deal's not done. Trump will probably win. That's what they're projecting. But this is what we have here. So you have that, and then you have the vote percentage, which is showing the percentage of which candidate's going to win, right? So, and then obviously there's states like Georgia that are really contested, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. We're probably going to be watching some of these, including Wisconsin. We're going to be watching some of these so-called battleground states throughout the night. And, I mean, it's possible we might have a projected winner within the next day or so, but it could stretch on even further. What's up, Turbo? How you doing, man? I see you found the horizontal stream, as you always do. But yeah, we're going both horizontal and vertical tonight. Very excited to dive into some stuff, and we have several videos out on the channel, and I will be queuing up many more as we go on. Okay, and that looks doesn't look half bad on the vertical stream. Okay, yeah, I wasn't able to really, I don't know if I could drag the window, but yeah, it doesn't really let me scroll around. Okay, so what we're seeing here is that according to the Associated Press, this was at 9:40 p.m. here, Central Standard Time. It shows Trump at 198 and Harris at 112. Now, a lot of you might either be doing one thing or another. You might be celebrating, you might be panicking based on, whichever candidates you've voted for in this election. But I would remind you of something that is very common in United States elections, and it is that there is often a red mirage early on as the votes are being counted. Now, what is a red mirage? Okay, well, it's exactly what you're seeing right now. It's a map that mostly looks red, and it looks like, Trump is going to win every district. Well, what that is that it's going through rural locations. So rural counties in rural states, it's easier to count those votes because there are less people in these rural areas, right? And then in the big cities, you're going to see predominantly Democratic voters, right? That vote for the Democratic Party. So even if a whole state appears to be largely Republican, we're going to see this. And it takes a while to count every vote in the city of Chicago or the city of New York or Dallas or something like that. Any of these big cities, right? So if we zoom back out there. Yeah. So that is the red mirage, is that it's easier to count the votes in the small and rural areas, and it does create an appearance early on that they're winning, that the Republicans are winning. Now, what happens later in, the evening or the days following will be a blue shift, which is where you start to see the Democrats who are more early voters than Republicans are. Most Republicans tend, not everyone, it's not a monolith, but Republicans do tend to vote on election day, whereas Democrats are tend to be early voters. And so it also takes time for them to tally up those early votes as well. And so those, you usually don't see those. They just kind of hit all at once. And that's why a lot of people have used this, like Trump has, in his rhetoric to say, okay, well, where'd all these votes come from? You know, they just magically appeared overnight. And it's like, well, they're counting these massive early voter turnout. And especially during 2020, when you had a lot of mail-in voters, everybody was at home, we were fearful of COVID, there were people dying from COVID. There were a lot of issues happening, so we had one of the largest turnouts ever, which I don't know if we'll beat that this time. We'll have to see. But I do project that this is going to be a very tight race. It's going to be very closely contested. I don't think it's going to be something where the winner just runs away with some massive lead. But I'd love to be wrong once again. I mean, nobody really knows how this all is going to turn out at this point. Okay, so it is in a lot of areas it is too early to tell, but what they can do is based off of the percentage that's been reported, they can sort of make an educated guess of, okay, well, based on the districts that we need to know that are voting Republican, we can assume that the Democrats will fill some gaps here, and then we can assume whether it's going to be like a win or a loss. But it's always very possible. That's why there's these hotly contested states and swing states that will often flip one way or the other, and we'll have to monitor them very closely. I think another thing that I saw, I think it was John King, he was talking about, was Miami-Dade County. And he was saying that DeSantis had managed to turn it red, and that if Trump didn't also manage to turn it red, that would be kind of a red flag there as well. Because historically, I believe Miami-Dade used to be, a lot of the time, used to be a blue county, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, the next thing, you know, of course, everyone looks at Georgia here. There's a large percentage of the African-American vote that is here in cities like Atlanta, right? And so if we zoom in, you can see, I don't know if this map, yeah, this map isn't quite like the magic wall on CNN that John King plays around with, where we can click on each district and see what's going on there. Yeah, I think that's as close as they're going to let us get on that. But yeah, I mean, it all comes down to winning some of these counties here. You know, Fulton County will be a big one. So it depends, not just are these voters here blue, but it's going to be, is there enough of a turnout, you know, that it's going to have an impact on the race. And I think some of the things surrounding Harris's rhetoric has either energized some voters, especially if you're excited about her creating some sort of path to legalizing abortion and prioritizing, you know, women's health care and rights. You're probably excited on that angle, whereas if you are looking for an end to the genocide in Palestine, you might be upset about that. I don't know exactly what her border plan is. It doesn't appear that her border plan is going to be too much different than Joe Biden's. She might lean a little further left in her policy on that, which Joe Biden really didn't change a lot of what Trump had instated. And so he took a little flack with Democrats on that. And, you know, I think he was kind of trying to be like middle of the road. And Kamala is kind of being the same way in saying that, like, hey, I want to have some Republicans in my cabinet. I want to be able to truly unite the country. Now, that's something that Joe Biden said as well. And you know, anybody can promise this at this point, but it's really up to the parties as to whether they want to work together. And I mean, we could even trace back historically to what the founding fathers have said about political parties. And they said that political parties would eventually corrupt and become the end of America. Now, it's a little dramatizing, and we're not trying to energize a civil war or get anyone super worried about what's going on here. But the reason why they say that is that the political parties are eventually bound to head in such a way that they go opposite directions, and they become so biased that they don't want to work together, and this party wants to make sure that this party doesn't get anything done, so they don't vote, and basically nothing gets done. You have a do-nothing Congress, you have lame duck presidents, you know, you have an electorate that becomes increasingly upset and apathetic in both parties, and that energizes people not to vote, and sort of a reverse energize. It almost lazifies you into not voting, right? Because you think, well, my vote doesn't matter, doesn't count. And it couldn't be further from the truth, because in elections that are hotly contested, which is, a lot of them, we hear this year after year that this is the most important election of our lifetime, and you almost hear it every election cycle, and, in some ways is largely true. Every election is important. I would even argue that your state and local elections are very important as well. I want to take a look at some other I hesitate to use the word polling here, but let's see here. We'll have a little fun. I don't know if we've because the channel's still growing, so I don't know if anyone's voted on our poll here. Let me see. I have to switch to. I don't really have it. Okay. I'll drag this over here. Excellent. Yeah, we put a little poll here in the community feed. Let me see. Let me see. Don't see it? Okay, let me check here. Because there should be a community section here. Yeah. I don't think we've gotten any votes. The channel is a little young. See if this link right here works. Let me know if that pops up. Or actually, that might be... Yeah, that should be the link to the poll. Let me click that. So that should take us over to the community feed. Now, you don't have to vote here, but I just thought it would be fun. If anyone wants to drop a vote in there, or if you want to select other and leave comment, see how the polling's going. Currently, we have 0 votes. So I guess I wouldn't call it a poll when this channel is obviously growing, but I thought, let's provoke a question here. Let's get people talking, and let's get people in there voting, right? Getting excited and energized about stuff. But I also think it might be an issue about, I think you have to hit certain metrics on YouTube to unlock some of the fancier features. Okay. So next, let's see. Why don't we check in and see what I have CNN and CBS. I think these are like the only two I could find that were like
leads incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown
easy to watch here.
261,000 votes, 84% of the vote in Ohio, where now Donald Trump has won the book, I state, 3 times in a row.
And that wouldn't get me in any sort of trouble, but we're providing commentary here, so we are making sure that we're not just sitting here and restreaming this network for people to watch. But yeah, here it's, once again, it's echoing a lot of the similar numbers that we've seen
over incumbent Republican Deb Fischer, 48%
in the Associated Press. So now here's the other thing that's really interesting. You see this down in the bottom right, that Democrats and Republicans are battling over the Senate. And yeah, it does show here that they've got one pickup. Let me actually just mute for a second, because they're kind of just fluffing right now. They're kind of just saying, oh my God, you can't wait until we tell you that, 1% of the vote has changed. Okay, so next polls close at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be 10 p.m. for those of us here in Central Time Zone. But yeah, this is going to be exciting, because this is going to be a lot of your blue states are going to be checking in, right? Your California, your Washington. Okay, and they're checking in at the various HQs. Okay. I always get a little excited when they pull up the magic wall, so we'll try to keep an eye out for that, because that's always quite fun. So yeah, waiting on some of those to change. Let's see what they're saying over here, because YouTube allows us to pull up CBS News, and they've been doing a live stream there.
go the other way after maybe the,
and they've got kind of their own version of the magic wall, but I feel like it requires a lot of the expertise that John King has.
So all in all,
so we're looking at Philadelphia now.
It looks like turnout is also tracking to be a little lower.
Most important issue.
That little bit of a vote shift.
Okay, let me turn off captions because it's kind of blocking our.
So far. And the fact that it's tracking a little bit lower on
abortion should be legal. Yeah, see, I think abortion is going to be a strong issue that's on the ballot, and I think Trump did this to himself. You know, I'm not trying to give him tips here, but you know, when you choose to do something like that, I think you've awakened the female electorate, and they're going to fiercely come out and make sure that this, you know, either becomes legalized or that, you know, someone does something to move the needle opposite direction.
One of the polls that has been the most
illustrative
from this entire campaign is the one that said two-thirds of Latinos.
The other key things to watch will be
believe that Donald Trump was not referring to people like them when he spoke about immigrants, and half of
that's interesting. He was only talking about Puerto Ricans. He wasn't talking about Cubans or Mexicans or however. Okay, that's a little crazy. But yeah, the other things that we will be watching is sort of the Senate races here. And obviously the Senate has been in a deadlock where Kamala Harris, as the vice president, was able to sort of break the tie votes, right? Well, I mean, based on this election, Republicans have picked up one seat. Now it's not enough to like fully control the House, because we're looking at they would have to get 218 seats within the House, I believe, for full control. Okay, it's going to an ad break, so. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing to watch. Will Democrats lose seats that they've been grasping to hold on to? And I also think some of the other issues that they have were Senator Manchin, Joe Manchin, and Senator Kristen Sinema, which were two senators that would often break from the Democratic Party, and they stopped from getting a lot of things done for Biden. So that was quite annoying in that sense, and I believe that Senator Manchin has said that he is an independent candidate right now. Yeah. So we'll kind of see how things go from there. Want to see if we can get some data on the Senate race in Arizona. It says Ruben Gallego, Democrat, leads Arizona, but the Associated Press has not called this race. Yeah, and this is the crazy part, is that he's competing with Kari Lake, which is just absolute madness at this point. But I'm glad to see that sanity seems to be prevailing here, because Kari Lake was sort of one of those people that stood next to Donald Trump and saying that the election was, you know, cheated and it was a fraud, and, you know, that Biden didn't really win, and all these various things, when it was a very clear, you know, knockout. So this is good to see. I think one of the other races that I'm a little concerned about, and this one's more of a personal one. let me do a Senate race in Texas. Okay. Yeah, so it's showing that Ted Cruz is leading Texas, but also the AP hasn't called this race because 73% reporting. And of course you have to count these larger blue cities. And Ted Cruz, the interesting thing about Ted Cruz is that Republicans don't like him, Democrats don't like him. No one really likes him. And he's also known as Cancun Cruz. I might actually go grab this little pamphlet that we got in the mail. I might do that real quick. That was really interesting about Cancun Cruz. And so yeah, let's leave. Let's see whose coverage is. Okay, I guess they're just talking about Trump over here. Let's see what CBS is reporting here.
What can you tell us?
I will step away for just one moment.
Yeah, so in early voting, that is passing by a 2/3 margin. We spoke with the supporters of that measure. It would codify abortion as a right in the state constitution. They feel very, very optimistic based on these first returns that this is going to pass here in Arizona. Interestingly, though, we talked to Congressman David Schweikert's team. He's a very pro-life Republican. There'd been a lot of talk about whether that would make him more vulnerable. His team believes this allows Republicans to vote their conscience and vote their party and re-elect him in District 1. So that's one of the races we're watching, because that, in theory, should be a very close race.
How about the Senate race? How's that shaping up?
Well, right now, CBS has it leaning Ruben Gallego, the Democratic challenger, over Carrie Lake, who is a local television news anchor, well known here. She ran for governor unsuccessfully 2 years ago.
This is insane.
But we also expect that margin to tighten up as more votes come in. But right now,
Yeah,
CBS
that race
has
is going to be
leaning,
a close one.
as a Democratic hold.
But hopefully,
Chris, any of your
Gallego
sources there saying when we
can
might
win that.
know result of some of these big races, including the presidential race in Arizona?
So we'll see on that. But yeah, I wanted to show you, speaking about Ted Cruz, we got these little postcards in the mail that say, greetings from Ted Cruz in Cancun. It says, there's no freeze here. There's no freeze here. And it shows Ted Cruz walking right here with his suitcase, and he's just strolling on the beach with his little Texas COVID mask there. And then it says here, I can't show all of it because of address stuff, but it says February 17, 2021. Dear Texan, I know it's freezing and I wish you were here. It's much warmer in Cancun. Enjoy the freeze, Ted. And then it has an asterisk. It says, this is not really from Ted Cruz. If it was, it would be about him. Yeah, so it wouldn't be about you. But just to remind everybody what happened when we had that blizzard in Texas. Power was out all throughout the state because we're not on the national grid. We insist on being on our own grid, which is often inferior at times. And there were so many preventable things that we could have done and could have done even since learning about this that we haven't done because of Cancun Cruz and also Governor Greg Abbott's leadership. So that's a big one. So I'm really hoping that voters won't be so short-sighted and will remember what happened in those blizzards when you were freezing, when you were stacked up with snow, when people were putting their propane grills inside their homes in Houston and using them to heat up their rooms, when you were lighting candles, when you had no access to power, to internet, if you had a radio or something, or, if you're a prepper, maybe you're in a better state at that point. Uh-oh, here we go. Now CNN's starting to call some stuff. Let me close. I got too many tabs here. Okay, so yeah, California for Harris. Let's get some audio here.
With 12 electoral votes, and Oregon.
Washington's too early to call. Oregon too early
to call. Let's go to the electoral map right now.
Oh, is
Donald Trump with 211 electoral votes.
Bring it over to John King with the map.
Harris cracks 100, now has 145 electoral votes. 270 electoral votes are needed to win. Donald Trump is 59 electoral votes away from that. Let's look at these battleground states now. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead there, 49.6%. Kamala Harris right behind him,
51% of the vote.
49.5%. Donald Trump has a 2,356 vote lead, with 51% of the estimated vote in from Arizona.
Wisconsin, another
Donald
close
Trump
one.
in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris is 48.4%. Donald Trump has a 28,576 vote lead, with an estimated 59% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State.
Pennsylvania, 68% of the vote.
Maintaining his lead, he's at 50.7% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 119,411 vote lead, with 68% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In Georgia, Donald Trump still in the lead there, 51% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 136,328 vote.
That's going to be
lead.
interesting
That is
because,
with
like we said, the
88% of
African American
estimated
vote has to really
from
come
state of
out
Georgia.
in
North
Georgia
Carolina,
for
another
Democrats to get a
battleground,
win.
Donald Trump leads
North Carolina.
50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8% of the vote.
85%
Donald
vote.
Trump has a 145,388 vote lead over Kamala
It's
Harris
a
right now,
small
with an
lead.
estimated
It's not really a big
85%
one.
of
It's
the
not
vote
impossible.
in
That
from the Tar
could
Heel
change.
State. In
Michigan.
battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead. She has 51.3% of the vote. Donald Trump has 46.9%.
That's interesting.
Kamala Harris is
30% of the vote.
74,838
I'm
votes
curious
ahead of Donald
about Arabs
Trump.
and
But that's less than a
Muslims
third of the
in
vote counted
Michigan.
there. 30% of the estimated vote in from the state of Michigan.
Virginia,
In the
78%
Commonwealth
of
of
the vote.
Virginia, Kamala Harris in the
How
lead
much
there
that'll
still,
affect
but
the
narrowly
election
so.
there?
50.1%.
Because a lot of them were either going to not vote at all or vote for Trump or vote third party. I don't know if they were convinced that maybe we'd be able to sort of lobby Harris to take a human stance on Palestine and end the genocide,
52.6% of the vote.
not
Donald Trump
just
with
keep arming Netanyahu and his
of the
goons
vote.
with guns.
That is with
In New
an
Mexico
estimated
here,
69% of the vote
69%.
in. Harris with a roughly 43,000
Yeah.
vote lead.
I mean,
Let's
that
go
seems
now to Abby
on
Phillip,
point.
who is at Harris campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C. at the campus of Howard
When
University.
are we going to bring it back to
Abby,
John
what are we
King and
hearing
the
from
magic
Harris
wall?
campaign,
You know
if
what I
anything?
mean? When are we going to get there?
Yeah, Jake, we actually just got a pretty significant update from the Harris campaign.
Let's see what she has to say.
Campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon, who sent out a memo to her staff tonight laying out what they see ahead in the coming days and hours, and my colleague Jeff Zeleny is here with me. The memo essentially says, Jake, that the returns are coming in slowly. They still see their path, but that path is largely going to be through the blue wall, as Jeff and I were just discussing. The key point that Jen O'Malley Dillon is making is that this is a close race. This is the close race that they have been expecting. She says to her staff, we are built for this. Let's finish the night out.
Yeah.
We will see you tomorrow. They are
Okay.
not expecting this to be wrapped up tonight.
They are
That's
not,
fair.
because the margins are so small. And just reading from that memo, should we have known all along our clearest path to 270 was through the blue wall states? And again, they point out.
So we have
the
an
cities
hour
we were
until the
talking
next,
about, Milwaukee,
polls close.
Detroit, and of course Philadelphia. Abby, a central question hanging over all of this, and indeed the crowd here waiting behind us, is Vice President Harris going to address the crowd? That is a possibility. We will see in the coming days as we hear some helicopters overhead here. We will see. But the bottom line is they know this is a close race. This is going to be not resolved tonight in their eyes.
Yeah, Jeff,
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is a critical moment, I think, for the Harris campaign to show where they get to 270.
Yeah, where they get to 270. Okay, so when they were talking about the blue wall, let's actually just go back to this, since this is a pretty good map in general of the United States. But they talk about the blue wall here. They're talking about a section of states here that need to hold, that need to stay blue in order to guarantee any sort of a Democratic lead or a victory. If that blue wall falls apart, then, of course, you end up with a Republican president. So yeah, I mean, and looking at what they're saying here, the Associated Press saying that Trump's leading Michigan. I guess CNN is getting some different numbers in, which is not super unusual. I wish we could pull up CNN's magic wall, but they have it as like a mobile app, and so I can't really, like, there's not really a good way. I mean, I could capture it with a camera we have here on the set, but there's not really like a great way for me to do it without you guys seeing my thumbs and fingers getting in the way here. But okay, I guess some of their differences, let's see if we can just zoom out for a second. So yeah, they're showing Trump at 211, Harris at 145. So yeah, they're painting a little bit of a different picture here. I'm trying to see if so they are saying that Harris has a better chance in Michigan than Donald Trump, which the Associated Press hasn't really confirmed that at this point. Let's see other differences that we're seeing here. No, not a whole lot else really. Everything else looks to be fairly on point, except Associated Press has already called Nebraska, where CNN is kind of saying that it's a large chance. As a lead, Trump has a lead in that state. And I mean, what's so cool about this is that we can even go back to 2020 and we can look at some of the states that were blue. Georgia was blue. South Carolina, North Carolina were red. And of course, Virginia and all these states, including Pennsylvania, all the way up were blue. West Virginia was, of course, red. So that's what they're talking about there. Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan were all blue in 2020. Of course, Colorado and New Mexico were blue. Arizona was blue, which it's leaning red, but look how close it is. I mean, it's within tenths of percents here. I mean, it's like 2.2% here, so it's very close. It's hotly contested there, and it's not finalized. That's 50% reporting there is what they're saying. Yeah, Nevada, we're not getting any reports from there yet, but they're usually blue. California is blue. Oregon and Washington are usually blue, whereas everything else that you see is red, typically red. Alaska, of course, typically red. It's going to be a little while before those results come in. Hawaii is also typically blue, so there might be some more time before those results are in as well. So that might be later in the night here as we go into tomorrow morning. But I mean, looking at the numbers here, 51 million for Trump here, 45 million for Kamala Harris. And then, I mean, you're seeing your third-party candidates here, Chase Oliver for the Libertarian Party and Dr. Jill Stein for the Green Party. I mean, you're seeing them come in at around 370K each, which is 0.4% of the vote. So, and of course, Robert Kennedy, who ended up endorsing Donald Trump, he was not able to get off the ballot in certain states. So RFK is actually still on the ballot in certain states. And obviously there's people voting for him. So there you go. He's got 0.3% of the vote, which is kind of crazy. It really shows how little people vote third party. This is still a lot of people, though. I mean, if we add all this up between all these candidates, I mean, we get pretty close or a little over 1 million votes there. So, I mean, it's not to be discounted. I think that Democrats and Republicans are always trying to split the independent thinkers and try to get the vote of independents, people that will often see both sides of the issues and say, okay, well, I like Democrats on this, but I like Republicans on this issue. I don't necessarily want to vote straight ticket Democrat or straight ticket Republican. So those are options that you have as a voter. And, I don't think the Democrats and Republicans have done a good enough job of reaching out to independents and actually trying to sway them and actually trying to prove that things will get done and showing that they will get things done. Let's actually break from the president stuff for a minute and let's take a look at the Senate. So, yeah, as we've seen here, the GOP, they've gained 1 seat, which means they've lost 1 seat. Yellow here includes others who caucus with the party. They're talking about Bernie Sanders, who is assured that he will win in Vermont. We take a look at some other races here. Yeah, I know Bob Casey and Dave McCormick, that's running a little tight there. Elizabeth Warren has assuredly maintained her seat in Massachusetts. Yeah, Rick Scott maintaining there. Amy Klobuchar not looking too good. But I mean, once again, that's 13% of the vote, so it's really soon. Yeah, you got a lot of candidates there in Nebraska. Josh Hawley holding on Missouri. Not one of my personal favorites. I haven't enjoyed his issues. Marsha Blackburn still holding on in Tennessee. Ted Cruz just barely hanging on in Texas. I'm really hoping Colin Allred can pull forward on that. And Ruben Gallego is staying ahead of Kari Lake, which is quite good as well. I think the other thing to, Tester. Yeah, it looks like John Tester is not doing too well in Montana. Cantwell is holding on in Washington. And Adam Schiff is also maintaining in California. All these are like grayed out. It's like letting you know that there's either no Senate race or that, as with Nevada, they're expecting results soon. As far as House races go, so it says Democrats have lost 3 seats in the House. Republicans have gained 2. Do they let us actually? No, I guess not. This map doesn't really let you get too deep into the details on that. Governor. Yeah, we're not having governor elections in Texas. Okay. Yeah, Josh Stein. Okay. Well, interesting. So I don't know, it's getting close. And once again, a lot of people will refer to this as like a race, between these two. It's not really a race. It's not who gets to 270 first wins. It's not who gets there first. Typically it's one candidate or the other makes it. What about the Senate race? Just in general, or like specific areas? Because I mean, here in Texas, it looks like Ted Cruz is pulling ahead according to the Associated Press. I wanted to see. I keep losing my feed here. Yeah, I wanna keep an eye on when they pull up the. Yeah, let me group. Actually move that off screen because we don't need my channel data right now. Okay. Who looks to take it? Well, if we're looking at it right now, it does look like Ted Cruz has a lead, but we were looking at something earlier. I think it was probably like CNN that was showing that Colin Allred had some sort of lead, but the Associated Press here is showing that Ted Cruz has a lead. I think it's going to be close. It's really going to come down to the wire on that as well. But Democrats have lost 1 seat. Republicans have gained 1 seat. So we'll see. They need to have a majority. And of course, Bernie in Vermont caucuses with the Democratic Party, so they kind of have him on that side there. Yeah, I was thinking of the House that was 218 for the majority. And so it looks like Democrats have lost 3 seats and Republicans have gained 2. So I don't know. It could be a thing where, you might get a Democratic president, but they might not have the House or the Senate, or they might have the Senate and not the House. Or you could end up with a Republican president with everything, having the House and the Senate. Just complete about face. But I mean, over the past few years, the Senate and the House have been, pretty hotly contested. Democrats have maintained a majority in the House, but a slim majority in the Senate, where Kamala Harris had to be the tiebreaker as vice president. So I don't know. It's some of these races are pretty close, but I'm really keeping an eye on this one with Ruben Gallego, who seems to be leading Kari Lake, which you would think shouldn't be very hard to do. But it does seem like a lot of the usual crowd. Bernie Sanders is back in, Elizabeth Warren's back in, Adam Schiff is back in, Josh Hawley is back in. Some of these, Rick Scott over in Florida. Looks like Timothy Kaine might clutch it in Virginia. And we're waiting to see the race between Dave McCormick and Bob Casey. It's all pretty hotly contested. I'm really curious to see when we can look at things as this wraps up, we can say like, oh, this is how many people voted like total in comparison to 2020. I think that's going to be really interesting. Let me see. I can't put this on screen, but let's actually pull up, okay, 2020. Do they let me, is it just the map? I guess it's just the map. They don't. Yeah, if you go back to 2020. Okay, yeah. 2020, we had, let's see here. We do 81,284,666. Oh, I didn't even. Sorry, I'm trying to do a calculator thing here. Oh, actually that works. Yeah, I was just gonna do it off screen, but yeah, we could show it on screen. Okay, so let me pin this. Let's bring it over here where we have some space, right? Okay, so let's see. For Joe Biden in 2020, he had 81,284. Oh, does it? I guess it disconnects with the. Okay, yeah, now it's working. Okay. I just wanted to have it on my screen on my calculator, but we'll have it pull up here instead. So we're going to have 81,284,666. And let's take Trump's votes, which would be addition here, and he would have 74,224,319 votes. If we add that up, in 2020, we had 155,508,985. Now, it doesn't count the people that either didn't vote or they voted third party. I'm just kind of looking at like the numbers of who voted, right? And so, if we look at that and we kind of see, let's go back to the presidential race. Yeah, I mean, we're nowhere near these numbers at this point. But then again, we're not fully reporting in every single one of these states. But I think what we want to look at is this number going to be met? Is it going to be exceeded? Is it going to be less than that? My bet is it's going to be less, because I think 2020 was a referendum on what 4 years of Trump looked like, what the policy on COVID was, and the pretty consistent rising death toll on that, and of course the preventable measures that could have been taken both before the pandemic started and when he disbanded, you know, the sort of national health, I believe it was like a cabinet of employees, or not employees, but it's like the health board, I believe. Let me bring it up. Yeah, the NSC Pandemic Unit. Yeah, so he had fired the entire pandemic response team in 2018, which, you know, you couldn't have known that a pandemic was going to come in late 2019, early 2020, but nevertheless, it happened. And because we didn't have those people and those measures in place, you know, there were a lot of deaths that could have been preventable. So, referendum on that. Referendum on his policies, his attitude, the political corruption, the calling Georgia, asking them to make some votes appear on his side, the sexual mistreatment of women that has shown up pretty consistently. There's a lot of cases against him, so the documents could be another thing. The storing of documents improperly, and documents they shouldn't have had on his person while Joe Biden was president. So, let's see. Okay, as of 10/21 here, they have some updated counts here from the Associated Press, which is showing Trump at 230, Harris at 179. So, oh, come on, Microsoft Defender. Come on, brother. All right. Let me see what else we have here. Oh, we got John.
Come back. Joe Biden's at 53.
John
You
King
see
at the
pattern
wall.
that continues, right? You know, I was saying Donald
Okay,
Trump has
so
to
he's
improve
talking
standing at
2020.
in the suburbs. She has to match Joe Biden in these close battleground states. And in a place that matter, blue-collar Pennsylvania, you don't see it right now. Some votes still to be counted. Maybe she makes it up. But so then the other point is, if you're losing places, can you make it up? Right? If you're losing in one piece of the state, can you make it up somewhere else? Look at Delaware County.
Delaware
She's getting
County.
60% of the vote, right? So it's only 70% counted. She's getting 60. Biden got 63, even in Delaware County, which is strongly Democratic. That was my last stop on the all over the map tour there. Again, there's time, right? There's 70% of the vote to come. But look at this, right? If you've got 70%, the most you're going to make up, if the percentages stay the same, you're going to make up somewhere in the ballpark of 15 or 20,000 votes, right? That's great. You're making up 15, 20,000 votes. His lead is 178,000 votes. So you're looking for places where you can make up a ton, which is why, to circle back to your hometown, what Kate Baldwin just told us is absolutely essential. It was Saturday morning in 2020 when that last installment from Philadelphia came in. The next installment will not be the last installment from Philadelphia, but she said tens and tens of thousands of votes, right? The Vice President of the United States is getting 77% of the vote right now in Philadelphia. They're approaching 70% reporting. Right? You come back in time, the President of the United States was getting over 81% in Philadelphia. Again, this is your biggest basket of votes. The Democratic coalition, this is the foundation. There's no house for Democrats without the foundation of Philadelphia. At the moment, she is underperforming the President of the United States, and she has to make up 178,000 votes. The math there is pretty clear. It's not mission impossible, but the more you get deeper into the count, the question is, after this next big batch of votes from Philadelphia, does it become mission improbable? I think is what you're looking for as we wait for more votes in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And again, Trump wins Pennsylvania, the map gets near impossible.
Philly
Not
looking very
impossible,
blue.
Near impossible.
There have been stories written a week or two ago about Democrats in Philadelphia sounding the alarm and basically using the press to send the message to the Harris campaign that they didn't think that the Harris campaign was listening to Philadelphia Democrats enough about the need to improve the margins. And just, Donald Trump lost Pennsylvania in 2020, but he improved his vote count in Philly from 2016 to 2020. And it looks like he's doing that again tonight, even while improving his margins in the collar counties, as opposed to what happened 4 years ago.
Well, we don't have the raw numbers yet, obviously, because we're at 70%, but he's at 22 if you round that up, 117,000 votes. Let's just go back and look. He's certainly on track to. If he keeps the percentage he's at now, right? He's at 18% there, and he had 132,000 votes. He's at 117,000 votes, and we still got 30% to commit. So it sure looks like he's overperforming 2020. We're not done yet, but it sure looks like that. And then so the analysis afterwards will be, who is it? Is it black voters in Philadelphia? There are some suburban areas outside of Philadelphia there. There are some affluent white voters there as well. But that will be the analysis afterwards. The thing that strikes me is we're going through these states. The thing you heard in the last week from the Harris people is that we're on the ground. Our labor allies are on the ground. Our progressive groups are on the ground. Our LGBTQ groups are on the ground. We're knocking on doors, and we don't see the Trump people anywhere. Right? Trump did sort of contract out his get out the vote. I was in 7 or 8 of these battleground states in the last couple of weeks. We didn't see many Trump people out there at all, just doing phone banks. But what happened in 2016 is Trump's support was organic. It was organic. And so, the Trump campaign says, texts and phone calls work to turn out voters.
Well, everyone, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos and live streams that we'll have here on the channel.
What kind of contact works best?
So next polls are closing in a little over 30 minutes.
Well, they say she only had 110 days.
So we might get some more results soon.
That part, we're not done yet. But that's what's going to happen, if that happens, is who the finger pointing in the Democratic Party. We're not there yet. But as you watch this map fill in, another thing that is distinctive at the moment, we're not done yet. In 2 presidential elections, Donald Trump has lost the popular vote both times. At the moment, he's 5.1 million votes ahead. We're just starting the count in our most populous state. So there's a long way to go, and that could change. That could change. But that would
it's
be
early.
If
a lot of votes to count in California.
That would be a trophy he would very much like to claim after losing the popular vote in 2 elections in a row.
And you also know there are people in the senior echelons of the Trump campaign who say that they still do direct mail because there's said seniors, you can't reach seniors through texting and emails. that the way to
Yeah,
reach
that's
them
true.
is with direct mail, which a lot of people in politics today laugh off. But guess who votes more than young people? Seniors. Sarah Seidner. Let's go to Wisconsin if you can.
Yikes.
Bring in Sarah Seidner, who's at a vote.
The
counting
real
center,
talk.
in Milwaukee.
Elderly
right
will
now,
always get out
with
there and
66%
vote.
of the vote in. Donald Trump
So,
is in the lead there.
you
with
young folks are
50.6%
excited,
in Wisconsin.
politically
In general,
motivated. You have to be more
Donald Trump right now in the lead by
active
almost
than these
60,000
old
votes.
folks that are making
Sarah,
decisions
you have officials with you.
for
Tell us
your
about the
life that
outstanding
you're going to
vote
be
in
living.
Wisconsin. Still about a third of
They
the
will
state's
show up to vote every
is
time,
outstanding.
whereas
What
you
can
might
tell
be
us?
lazy, you might be tired, you might forget,
Yeah, we just heard a
or
big
you
cheer
might
go
just
up
think that
here,
you have
in
other
Milwaukee
priorities that are
at
more
the,
important, or that your
central
vote
count,
doesn't
as they
count.
call it,
The seniors
because all the
will always
wards
be
have
there
finally
to vote.
reported. So they are counting these ballots as fast as they can. They do believe
So
they're going
you have
to
to
be
be more
able to
energized
give,
and more
some kind of
politically
idea of this
active and
count
motivated
after
if you
midnight.
want
It
to
will
bring
not take the
change
extra
into this
2
world.
or 3 hours. They thought it might because of that problem with what happened with the tabulators, which, by the way, are right behind me. One of them, all 13.
Yeah,
of
and
them,
they're
there
also
were-
volunteering.
There was an issue. A door
So I don't
was
see
not
a
locked,
lot of young
and so
people
they, out of an
volunteering
abundance of caution,
to work
decided that they were
around
going
counting
to
and
put through,
the voting and
rerun
stuff like
through
that.
the absentee ballots, 30,000
But
of them.
you
they've
do
been
see
able
a
to
lot
do
of young
that,
people
and now
like
they're about
phone banking
at
and
80,000
and
of
doing door-to-door.
325,000 that have already
Getting the
been
word out that way.
processed. All right, with me now we have Patricia Ruiz-Cantu and Douglas Haig, Republican, Democrat. Both of them are on the Milwaukee Election Commission. First of all, how are things going, and do you think we're going to find out something soon?
We will. I think things are going really well, even though we had a little hiccup. But, as we united, all the workers and the parties, I think that it's extremely important that we were in the same page and that we had an agreement and everything is going well.
What did you make of this? I know Ron Johnson came out, a Republican, and was very, upset with all of this and was sort of making hay about it. What were your thoughts on what happened with these machines?
Well, there was a human error in part of it. So when it was caught, we just simply did a rerun on the with the processing and the tabulators, and even probably some of the tabulators should have seen it, but it was caught by one of the observers who brought it to the executive director's attention, and it was acted upon immediately. We took care of it, and yes, we anticipated a much further delay than we are, but I think we're right on schedule where we anticipate to be earlier. And true, if you can see around and look at the poll workers at work, we both have Democrats and Republicans working side by side, and many of them have been doing this for many years, and they've become very efficient about it, and they're with their integrity from each group. So I think we're going to be getting those numbers fairly soon. I don't want to say as early as we would like, but I think it's going to be earlier than what we thought before we had the hiccup, so to speak.
Just to both of you, what do you think of this, the number of voters? Are you seeing the numbers larger than in 2020, and what are you seeing now?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
I'm not seeing as large as I thought before, but I was doing, most of us were going out to the polls earlier too. The polls were a steady, nice flow. What I did see is a high volume of same-day registrations. That seemed to be a much more increase at all the polling sites.
So people registering and voting same day.
Whatever demographics, but it was all over that was encompassed. And I talked to each chief inspector, and that is the area that I saw a much increase in the participation of same-day registration.
Same-day registration, we saw that also in Cedarburg today. A lot of people coming and registering and voting. Thank you both so much. We should just make very clear, you heard it here from a Republican and a Democrat who are election commissioners, that there was an agreement. This is going to be a free and fair election here in Milwaukee. People are watching every single bit of this and agreeing that things are going as smoothly as possible after that hiccup earlier today.
All right, Sarah Seidner in Milwaukee. Thank you so much. Appreciate
it. We'll keep an eye on that.
Let's take a look.
Oh, wait, no, they're going back to the magic wall. Hang on. We can't miss that.
Donald Trump in the lead with 66% of the vote in the state.
Okay, so now they're looking.
Tell me
Wisconsin.
about the WOW counties, if you could.
So you're right around Milwaukee or the WOWs. Let me get to it in just a second. I just want to interesting. Number one, we've learned about Senator Johnson in recent years. He likes to put out press releases before he knows what the facts are. Sorry, it just happens to be true, especially about voting integrity. That's how it's supposed to work. A Democrat and a Republican standing side by side, Democrats and Republicans throughout the room. They're fine. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They had a human error. We're all human, and they're fixing it. Right? That's how it works. Sometimes it means you wait a little while, but you have people in the room, eyeballs, both parties, eyeballs on everything. Everything's going to be fine. But the point Mr. Hague made at the end is instructive to me in the sense that if you come to here, you're down, you're the vice president, you're losing by just shy of 60,000 votes. This is the #1 county. It is 17%, 16, 17% of the state population. You're getting 66%, so you say, okay, there's still 40% of the vote to come in. But Mr. Hague just made a point. He said he didn't think turnout was great. Well, let's see what these final numbers are, because if you look at that number right there and look at 176,000, right? When Joe Biden carried Wisconsin 4 years ago, he's at 317,000.
Be a lot more.
At 69% of the vote.
Needs to be counted.
So 317,000 and 69% of the vote. She's at 66% of the vote. And the raw math, right? You need the higher percentage, but you need that raw math to overcome what is happening in all this red, right? Especially, one more check and I'll get you to your wows. Dane County is 95% in, right? This is Madison. This is the University of Wisconsin. Young voters, college area, tends to be more liberal. 74% for her, 242,000. Again, Biden's number's higher and the math is higher. That's what happens in battle. That's how you win or lose battleground states.
Get out the vote and get out the vote and
in the right
with a
places.
higher percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in a place, the state won by 20,000 votes. You saw the margin even just right there. So let's go to the wows.
Once again, I still think we're in the midst of the red mirage right now.
The Harris campaign was hoping,
we are going to see that blue shift either happen late tonight or early tomorrow.
In a conservative county, vote Harris. Just don't tell your husband about it. This is one of the places they thought the Dobbs decision, reproductive freedom, abortion rights, would help them cut into the margins. Well, they're at 91%. We'll see. But 40% is her number. If you round that up, we'll go back in time. It's a tiny bit, but it's not a significant jump from where the president was 4 years ago. And Trump's at 60% if you round up then. He's at 59. So a little bit, maybe a tiny inroads there for her. So you're moving around up here. You go up to Washington County. This is a big 70% of the vote here for Trump. Let's just double check it and come back.
He improved.
Up a little bit. He improved a little bit. And then you come over here to the O. I did
a lot of people
for you there. I put the O at the end.
Yeah.
But you come over to Ozaki here, and the former president is at 55% of the vote in 2020, and he's at 56, roughly the same, but a little bit, So Trump is not underperforming. It's maybe within the margins, but when you see that well behind where President Biden was, and now you're waiting on this. I mean, there are some other small things. Let's take a look and see what else is out there. But as you can see, the biggest thing is here, and some of these votes up in here, if you're in the Trump campaign, we're talking about, can she come back? But if you're in the Trump campaign, you're also saying, do we have a cushion? Is there more coming in for us? And the answer is yes.
They got all that Green Bay vote.
The answer is yes when you look up there. So the next thing we learn,
all those cheeseheads,
how many
man.
votes? What is her percentage? How does it affect the statewide math? And then how much is left?
Yeah.
How much is left? In your biggest area, you have to turn them out. Because then again, I just want to come up here and look at this. Again, Brown County, this is Green Bay, blue-collar workers.
Yep.
Trump's getting 61. The vice president's getting 37 or 38 if you want to round that up.
I'm scared.
That matters.
Oh, my God.
That matters.
He almost shot almost 10 points.
Right.
9 points.
Right. In a battleground state, he's up and she's down in a place where if you're the Harris campaign, the Biden campaign, you're not going to win here. You're not going to win here. But if you make it that race, if you make it that close instead of that close, you get a better result, period. It's simple math.
Let's go on to the third of the blue wall states, Michigan. Jim Sciutto is at a vote counting center in Detroit. And Jim, you have an update on the vote in Wayne County. Tell us.
Yeah, let's back away for just a second on some of that. We'll keep an eye on it, though. But I was just kind of checking Twitter to see what people are saying right here. And, I'm seeing people, notable journalists, especially one here who works for Al Jazeera, Sana Saeed. She's saying, shredding children with bombs, ignoring and being condescending to people who have lost their families in a genocide your administration and party are overseeing, ignoring your progressive base, violently suppressing student protests against the genocide, plunging hundreds of millions of people into regional destabilization, destroying the last remaining facade of international law, and embracing the Cheneys, she's talking about Liz and Dick Cheney, while pandering to non-existent Dem-curious conservatives. So Democrat-curious conservatives. Gets you exactly what we are witnessing right now. So it's also the fact that a lot of people are projecting, as we're in the middle of the red mirage here, they're thinking, oh, this is payback. And we may see that. We may see that the Democrats made some big mistakes in some of their policy decisions and their choices to essentially exercise people like the Arab and Muslim vote, and of course anyone that is pro-Palestine, and of course also leaving the progressive voters in the dust and saying, hey, vote blue no matter who, and pushing all the votes more center and actually a little bit to the right, with trying to appeal to people like Liz Cheney, who actually during Donald Trump's presidency voted 100% with him on every issue. So she's not some middle-of-the-road, reasonable Republican that, can be lauded by Democrats and someone that we can reach across the aisle and work together with. She is reasonable in some discussions and in some certain conversations, of course, but we're not really seeing that when it comes to experience here. So it looks like they're looking at Michigan right now. I think he just backed out. Let's see if I can find some other stuff here. Yeah. Okay, let's actually, is he done talking? I feel like as soon as I pull it up again, he's going to pan away from the wall.
And now she's
Let's see.
no longer ahead. Now Donald Trump is in the lead. Right now, not all the votes are counted, but right now he's leading in all 3 blue wall states.
Plus North Carolina, plus Georgia, plus Arizona, plus Nevada.
Yep.
We're not done with the count.
But this is right now the map of 2016.
That is the map of 2016, and that is the 5-alarm fire inside the Harris campaign to get on the phone. Again, we're not done, and we lived through 2020. And I want to say it again, slowly and clearly. 2020, this time of night, there were states that changed, and they were largely, Pennsylvania changed. Trump was ahead. In Georgia, things have changed. There's not as many mail ballots out there as in 2020, so I would not expect as dramatic a swing. The question then becomes, go state by state, county by county, is the math there? And, I'm trying to be fair and trying to be, it's possible, it's possible. When you're leading in all of them and you're Trump, I mean, that's what you're sitting in the headquarters. So maybe they're not going to win them all, right? Maybe they're not going to win them all, but they're leading in all of them right now. And so let's just look at what happened here and come on in. Number one,
it's talking a lot.
It's the smaller rural counties. When they fill in, again, it's, you say, oh, that's not a lot of votes. Well, that's a lot of votes when you have it there, and then you have it here, and then you have it again here. You're getting 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 in all these little counties. 120 votes there. That's only 5% reporting. You say, oh, that's not much. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think another thing that made Hassan is tweeting about
the Democratic margins,
is
you've got 83 counties.
This should have never been allowed. Trump should never have been allowed to run for president again without any accountability for January 6th.
But Jake, the big question in Michigan is, when do those Wayne County votes come in?
That's kind of another thing where Merrick Garland and Joe Biden were very adamant on being sort of impartial about convicting a former president for a crime, even if it's like super obvious, tampering with the election and trying to subvert the votes of an entire state.
Trump now has 227 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 153.
No consequences for January 6th in telling all his voters to march to the Capitol and hang Mike Pence and all that.
Florida, where we find Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin, CNN is now calling North Carolina for
that seems accurate. North Carolina.
States that the campaign is watching.
We look back at what North Carolina was doing.
Yeah, Jake, remember when I told you a few hours ago that it was going to be seen as a gut check for the Trump campaign? Listen here, it's a bit of a delay, but your call is playing right now over the loudspeakers in the room, Jake.
Both Carolinas were red.
The party here, the partygoers gathered at the convention center here in West Palm Beach cheering as your call is coming on the screen. They have been glued to CNN.
Why are they wearing giant MAGA hats?
Watching John King at the map, going over each of these numbers. But North Carolina is an important benchmark for the Trump campaign because they were watching John King to get a gut check for how they believed the rest of the
They're watching John King watch them.
I can tell you that what I'm hearing from Trump campaign sources is they are increasingly confident as the night is going on. Still not certain, of course, watching those very important blue wall states.
Yeah, everyone's
and to see
very
what they
tense.
look like. And so that is going to be the big question here as they continue to keep an eye on Pennsylvania, on Michigan, on Wisconsin, and as this is moving forward. Jake, I will tell you that we're seeing more people from the Mar-a-Lago party come over here to the Trump headquarters where this party is going to be held. But also, some Republicans are flying into Palm Beach. We just heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson, who was watching the results come in with his constituents back in Shreveport. He is now headed here tonight because he is predicting a bigger Republican margin in the House, a Republican takeover of the Senate, and he says he believes a Republican is going to win the White House, therefore Donald Trump. Jake, obviously still waiting to see, but a noticeable shift here in the mood at the Trump headquarters.
All right, Caitlin Collins in West Palm Beach at Trump HQ. Thank you so much. So, the first of the 7 battleground states to fall, CNN projecting North Carolina for Donald Trump.
This was the most probable pickup.
All right, we'll pivot while they do their own commentary here. Let's see. Been tracking a few things here. Let's see some of our new members of Congress here. Let's see. So election 24, they're saying Representative Ilhan Omar wins re-election in Minnesota's 5th congressional district. And of course, they're marking here various Democrats and Republicans here that are winning seats and how much they are being bribed by AIPAC to represent the Israel lobby and send more weapons to Israel to bomb innocent Palestinians, men, women, and children. Yeah, Bernie Sanders is back in, of course. He doesn't take money from AIPAC. AOC, of course. Okay, let me see what else I have here. We can kind of tap into some other news and some other opinions that are going around. Yeah, a lot of people talking about how great it was to vote early. Makes sense. I mean, this is more anecdotal, but I am seeing it could be just, you know, Twitter being Twitter and just the feed being what it is. I am seeing a lot of people that are like sharing that they've been voting for Jill Stein and Rudolph Ware, who are the Green Party candidates, which are the only candidates that are, you know, running anti-genocide, and a lot of their issues are that they want to resolve the genocide in Palestine, find a 2-state solution, that they are looking for solutions to climate change and the rising inflation in our economy, a lot of issues there, and of course wanting to resolve some of the immigration stuff as well. But yeah, it could be an anecdotal thing where it's just my Twitter feed is full of people that are just like screenshotting that, because I haven't really, I see people lauding that they voted for Harris and Trump and stuff like that, but I haven't seen them like screenshotting their voting ballot the way I've seen people that are voting for Green Party candidates. It's just an interesting observation. I guess it's neither here nor there. We don't want to put probably too much stock into it until we actually see some numbers here, but I mean, based on what, you know, the third-party candidates are getting like 0.4 of a percentage point of the vote, so I mean, it's not really coming in as a large number there. But nevertheless, we'll keep an eye on it and we'll see how things go, but not likely to go anywhere in that sense. But it does make sense, as a lot of people are jaded. They don't want to vote for Trump, and they don't want to vote for Kamala Harris. You know, they might have issues on either side of the aisle that they say, okay, well, I'm pro-abortion, so I want to vote for someone on this side of the ticket, or someone might say I'm pro-immigration, or something's got to be changed about this economy, so I'm going to vote for this candidate. Yeah, I mean, just seeing that Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan all have to be blue, and currently. Okay, hang on. I pulled up the wrong page here. Yeah. And seeing that Minnesota is the only one that's blue, while Wisconsin and Michigan are still are still pretty hotly contested. And if you look at the Associated Press, they're saying that it leans red, and if you look at CNN, they're saying it leans blue. We're just gonna have to wait until there's more data for a decision there. Yeah, and I'm also kind of monitoring, like, just in the essence of, like, vibes of what people are just, which vibes don't win elections, obviously, but just kind of getting a sense of, like, what people are saying online. And people are not excited. People are not happy with either choice in the election, and based on the vibes, both sides are very worried about, which candidate wins and which candidate loses. I don't think there's anyone that's, like, fully, relaxed and happy about what's going on. I think there's a lot of people that are lost in the middle. They're free agents that were looking for a good candidate, and, they feel like, Donald Trump has been the agent of the animus. He's just been an agent, not a solution, not someone that's coming in to drain the swamp or to fix all the problems, as he states. He is just an agent for the animus that America has and all the upsetting, political issues that we have, where we so heavily and drastically want change to so many issues that they found Donald Trump as the perfect representative for that. Now, if we look at Harris, I think we also see something different on that side. We see that she is the vice president of Joe Biden's campaign, right? And, we saw Joe Biden's abysmal performance in the debate that showed, his general aging process is well underway, and not necessarily signs of dementia like we see with Trump, but just the fact that he's aging as any person would, and he's probably too old to be president. But we also see that Harris is really kind of running as Joe Biden light, that she's running on a lot of the same policies. She utilized the same campaign headquarters. She utilized a lot of the same strategies that Biden has used to get to where he got. And also, there's also the fact that the Democratic Party really didn't get to have an actual primary or an election and actually vote for who they want to have on the ticket. It was really kind of hoisted upon them last minute. Joe Biden drops out. He endorses as vice president. The party immediately aligns behind that, which, is good to have some party unity, because if you didn't have that, you would probably have people that were all spread out trying to nominate different candidates, and you would have an ununited, a dismantled party that wouldn't be able to agree on a candidate to push forward, and it would be too late in the election at that point to, have some sort of, rushed Democratic primary, or do some sort of polling to sort of figure out, like, okay, well, if it's not Biden, who would it be? So we literally have a candidate here that was not selected by the people. So there are some people that are just not happy that it's Harris, or they don't believe that Harris has proven herself. She's been in the Senate a long time. She's worked really hard. She's 68 years old, I believe, which I really start to think, I think candidates need to be on the younger side. I want to see people 35, 40 years old, somewhere in that range. We need to rejuvenate our politics, and we need to have someone young and vibrant, and someone that understands the issues that younger people and adults are facing in the modern day. We can't have people that were born in the greatest generation of World War II, or even, it's even starting to get a little crazy to have people that are baby boomers that, just don't really understand the modern challenges of, middle class, blue collar employees and stuff like that. We're just so disconnected at this point that we just have these people with no term limits in Congress and the Senate, and they're just it's just the same people over and over, and they're getting older and older and older, and some of them are turning into skeletons as we speak, and some of them are being trotted out with walkers and oxygen tanks and stuff like that. And it's just embarrassing at this point, because you really do, there is a point in everything we do in our lives where you have to pass the torch to the next generation, whether it's at your church, and you have the older people that know how to make the turkey dinner recipes, and they know all the hymns and the songs and the traditions and the tablecloths that we use. They have to pass that down to the next generation so that they can take over and do the turkey dinners and the cook-offs and set up the tablecloths and the tapestries and, you know, how to clean the church and all the various things. You have to do it with that. You have to do it at your job. You know, gradually the old guard retires and new people take over. It's the same thing with our politics. There has to be a point where you pass the torch, and the baby boomers and even generations before them have refused to do so, even though a lot of them are at retirement age or later. And it's not to say that you can't still work a job or be completely cognizant. It's not that we're being ageist here. I think it's just a very important issue that at a certain point, you know, these elderly people cannot be governing over people's lives, that they don't even understand the issues that we're facing today. They don't understand how the internet works. So they can't even work out some of the issues that we have around net neutrality or the stuff we have with freedom of speech on various platforms, right? So, I mean, there's so many complex issues that they're not able to understand because they're just too old. They don't know how to work cell phones. They don't know how the internet works, and their understanding of things like Facebook are very menial, and they think that Facebook is just a website to link up with family. There's no ad revenue being made. There's no, you know, sort of motivations behind it that are political. It's all very interesting. And I mean, it doesn't even take that long of scrolling, and I see someone once again just saying that, hey, I voted for Jill Stein, I voted for Jill Stein, I don't vote for genocide. Just seeing it a lot on Twitter. So it is anecdotal, and it's not something that we really want to dive too deep into, but I mean, it just seems to be something there. But I don't think Democrats appealing to Republicans has helped them. I think it's great. I think we do need to unite the country. I do think that we need to actually get the parties working together again, where they say, okay, here's the situation with immigration. This is what the Republicans want to do. They obviously want to build a wall. Here's what Democrats want to do. They obviously want to have somewhat more open borders where that people can come in and immigrate to the country legally, and that will allow America to be what it is the American dream. It's the ultimate mixing pot of cultures from all over the world have come together to create this amazing place that has so much freedom and so much opportunity in this land that makes it truly special from anywhere else in the world, right? So we have to get back to a point where we're not closing the door on people. And we see that with people like Ted Cruz. We see it with Marco Rubio and other people from families that were obviously immigrants that came here. They may be of, you know, Cuban or Puerto Rican descent, or, you know, Ted Cruz actually came from Canada, but I believe he has Cuban descent in the family. You know, for them to be immigrants to this country, as a lot of us are, if you trace back some of our family's lineage, and to come to this country and then decide to be like, hey, I'm going to close the door, even though I got in this way, I'm going to close the door to make sure that you guys never get the opportunity that I have. And they do it to their own people, which is kind of crazy. So to do that, I think it's very jaded, and it's very personal, and it's all about taking advantage of the system for yourself. Let's see. Rashida Tlaib wins re-election in Michigan's 12th congressional district. Of course, she's the only Palestinian in the United States Congress. Yeah, I think a lot of people are having a hard time, and I have a difficult time comprehending it myself. how Donald Trump is still able to run after January 6th, how there was no consequences after that, and here we are, just several years out from that situation, and we're allowing it to potentially happen again. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but I mean, he's going to be a sore winner and a sore loser either way. Okay, we got some ads rolling. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Also a toss-up. But like I said, we're probably not really going to get, 100% confirmed results tonight. Oh, wow. Hang on, let me refresh this. Is that correct? AP is saying that Ted Cruz is going to win Texas. Yeah, looks like 10% more than Colin Allred. Yeah, if that's true, that would be a real shame. Because I think Colin Allred has had a pretty big chance to actually make it in the Senate. And, we've seen Beto O'Rourke run several times for Senate and for president and, come very close when it comes to the Senate, but not close enough. And Ted Cruz, despite all his flaws and despite both parties hating him and nobody really seeming to enjoy working with him or like him, it seems that people just continually vote for this guy. And I just cannot understand how that works. So, let's see. So, yeah, we still got ads over there. But yeah, it's looking, still looking pretty close in a lot of these spots here, and this updated just a minute ago. So, see, Ruben Gallego, they're showing Arizona. Let's zoom in a little closer. So Donald Trump is leading Arizona, but Ruben Gallego with 50% of the vote is leading. So yeah, we'll see how all that turns out. Back out of the governor thing. There we go, just like that. Yeah, nothing's really changed with third party. Well, other than maybe Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy's come up a 1/10%. It's because he couldn't get himself delisted when he endorsed himself. When he endorsed Trump, endorsed Trump. So yeah, he's actually actively competing with Trump in certain districts, which I think is pretty hilarious. I mean, you got to have a little bit of a sense of humor on this stuff here. Yeah, Oklahoma's pretty crazy. How about that? And of course, Georgia looking very much the same. 93% of the vote. Pennsylvania with 83%. I mean, I still see a path for Kamala Harris to win, but there's still a very viable path that Donald Trump could win, and it's going to revolve around Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Those are going to be the big ones. I think Arizona may possibly either go red or blue. I mean, it looks like 50% reporting Donald Trump is leading right now, but I mean, look at that. It's by 0.1%. And of course, Nevada usually goes blue, so that shouldn't be a problem there. But yeah, I feel like it really depends on these 4 hotly contested states over here. I think over here it's fairly predictable here. Let's see what they're talking about.
The vote. Kamala Harris has 47.7% of the vote. Donald Trump is ahead of her by more than 206,000 votes. That's with 83% of the estimated vote in. That's Pennsylvania. Battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 46.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 111,000 vote lead with an estimated 44% of the vote in from
Tom Cotton,
Michigan.
Republican,
Wisconsin now,
U.S. Senator of Arkansas.
50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump almost 80,000 votes ahead of her. with 3/4 of the vote, 74% of the estimated vote from the Badger State in. Battleground Georgia, Donald Trump is up 50.7%.
It's still very close, though.
Trump, more than 118,000
probably the scariest part for either side.
With an estimated 93% of the estimated vote in. Arizona, Donald Trump ahead there too with 49.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.3% of the vote. He is more than 7,500 votes ahead of her right now, but they still have about 48% of the vote to count, 52% of the estimated vote in. In Nevada, Donald Trump is in the lead with 73% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 10,000 vote, almost 11,000 vote lead. That is with only 2% of the estimated vote in. As we follow these crucial undecided races, we are already also getting closer to another poll closing. 4 more electoral votes are at stake in the next hour in the heat of the battle to reach 270. So every electoral vote counts. We're just minutes away from voting ending in the reliably blue state of Hawaii. Over to John King now at the Magic Wall. John.
So Jake,
Alaska being a genuinely red state.
These 3 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, will determine the fate of the Harris campaign, whether there's any chance she can come back. As we wait to see those results, I just want to show you something. Bring it up. Remember January 6th.
Next polls are closing in a minute
Even
and a
Republicans
half.
are running away from Donald
So
Trump.
we
Donald
should
Trump is
have
done as a national
we
politician.
should have something
I want to show
new
you
shortly.
This is Trump overperforming his 2020
Should be very
performance
interesting.
by 3% or more. Right? This is a statewide look. We're not done with some of these counts out here, so this will change a little bit. But Donald Trump overperforming 2020 after January 6, 2021. That's the statewide look. Look at this. Just look at this when you go to full counties. Look at how many counties across America, 994 of the 4,000 plus, 4,600 plus counties and townships, especially up this way, part of the country, they don't call them counties, they call them townships, but in nearly 1,000, 993 right now. This will change as we go through, but Donald Trump is overperforming, and look at where they are. He's mostly performing in red areas. His vote is getting higher in the areas where he wins elections. Yes, there are some blue places where he's overperforming, but just look at battleground Pennsylvania. Look at all these red counties, places that Trump wins, where he's overperforming by 3% or more what he did in 2020. Then you come out here, let's go up to battleground Michigan. These are the decisive states left on the board right now. Look at in the areas, those are his base areas. He's getting more. The same over here in battleground Wisconsin. So the former president of the United States, given up for dead, Jake, after January 6, 2021, is running stronger now than he did in the last campaign.
All right,
Interesting.
John King, thank you so much. Every electoral vote counts, and 4 more are on the line right now as polling places are about to close in Hawaii, and we project Kamala Harris will win the state of Hawaii with its 4 electoral votes. Not a surprise. Hawaii, a reliably Democratic vote, but that does mean a pickup of 4 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has 230. He is 40 votes away from winning. Kamala Harris has 169 electoral votes. She is 101 votes away from the 270 needed to win. John King?
So, Jake, let's look at the map where we are right now.
Once again, it's not a race. It's more of a gotta-catch-them-all type
just look
thing.
At the map right now.
It's
you
like
see a lot of red.
More like Pokemon, less like Mario Kart, I would say.
You see the blue, right? The blue wall states, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, right?
Yep.
Now watch. This is where we are now. 2024 looks a lot different than 2020. But at the moment, looks pretty similar to 2016. Donald Trump won the blue wall. Donald Trump won North Carolina. Donald Trump won Georgia. Donald Trump won Arizona. The only difference would be Hillary Clinton in 2016 did carry Nevada. Donald Trump leads there right now. When we come back to 2024. But it's just, sorry, 2024. Let me come up here and do this. And
2024. There it is.
And you go there at 2024.
Oh, no. So they are saying Nevada might
change when you come here. And so Donald Trump is remaking the map again at the moment. And the question is there any way for Harris to come back? Again, we've given Donald Trump North Carolina.
They haven't projected it
so
yet.
Let's see where we are in Georgia. If
they're
Donald
saying
Trump
it's
also
likely.
carries Georgia, the vice president cannot afford to lose Pennsylvania. Yes, Nevada's out there, Arizona's out there, Michigan and Wisconsin are out there. 19.
Yeah,
19.
Pennsylvania's
I'll show you what I
gonna
mean in a
be
minute.
key.
So can she come back in Georgia to stop that from happening? She's limiting her. If he wins Georgia, her path is so limited. So it's 118,000 votes right now in a state decided 4 years ago by 11,700 votes. Donald Trump with 93%. That's an important number of the vote counted is ahead by nearly 120,000 votes. So you're looking, this is where they would have to be. You can pick up votes elsewhere, but that's where most of the votes are. That's close to half of the state population, right in Atlanta, in the metropolitan area around it. So what's out there? Are there live outstanding votes out there? Well, let's take a look.
Oh, is he going to go in?
Yes. Let me get rid of the coloring so you don't have to see that. The answer is yes, they're out there. You're at the point now where you're talking about drawing to an inside straight flush.
Atlanta,
essentially.
Savannah.
You need these votes to come in overwhelming numbers for you. But you do see there's the mathematical possibility. This is why the Harris campaign is on the phone. This is why I assume Donald Trump has not come out yet to say anything, because he's hoping that this one comes off the board as well. You're looking at the math right there. It's possible. So we're waiting for more votes in Georgia. So then you come up, Jake, and we'll look at the blue wall states in a minute to see if any of the math is changing. But if you look at the map right now, you would so much rather be Donald Trump.
182 to 230.
All right, and we have a projection, John. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the Commonwealth of Virginia. Commonwealth of Virginia with its 13 electoral votes.
Jake loves saying Commonwealth. He loves to say the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
With 270 electoral votes needed to win, Donald Trump is only 40 behind that with 230. Kamala Harris has 182 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert. Where are we with all the states that we have not projected yet? Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead. 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 213,000 vote lead over her with 84% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up there, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 107,294 vote lead over Harris. But there's still about 55% of the vote that has not been counted in Michigan. A lot of votes to count in Michigan. Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51% of the vote, Kamala Harris 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 92,000 vote lead over Harris. That's with more than 3/4 of the votes counted in Wisconsin, 77% of the vote. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump up 50.7% to Harris's 48.4%. Donald Trump with a 118,838 vote lead over Harris with 93% of the estimated vote in. In battleground Arizona, Donald Trump up 49.8% to Harris's 49.3%. Donald Trump with a 9,600-plus vote lead. That's with slightly more than half of the vote counted in Arizona, 52%. In Nevada, Donald Trump up 73% to Harris's 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with an almost 11,000 vote lead. But that is, again, with only 2% of the estimated vote.
Yeah, 2%
in
Nevada.
Counted.
Okay.
Still a lot of votes to count.
So that's why they were like, hey, we're projecting this, but
right now you're looking at the big map and you're seeing all that red. Yes, Virginia, we just projected for the vice president. That one's blue. I'll take a closer look in a minute at that one. But you're looking at the blue wall states. Essentially, Harris's only path is to come back in these 3 states right there. I can give you a conceivable possibility where she only has to come back in 2 of them, but she has to come back in all 3 of them to have a reasonable path to 270 electoral votes. And it's a problem at the moment, 168,000 votes. I'm told more votes just recently came in Philadelphia, and indeed they did. So now you're up to 76% estimate. These could change a little bit as more votes come in. But you see that, the vice president opening a healthy lead in Philadelphia, which is a building block of a Democratic win in Pennsylvania. The question is it enough? I just showed you Trump was leading. So 78%, 477,000 votes. If you go back 4 years ago, it's 81%, and it's 603,000 votes. Remember that, 81 and 603. 78 and 477. Can she move both numbers up when we get the final quarter of the vote? That's the challenge, because you need that math, forgive me, to overcome that. 168,000 votes in a state that was decided by 80,000 votes 4 years ago and 40,000 votes 4 years before that.
Very close.
In a tight state like Pennsylvania with 85% of the votes. So you're saying
feels like
just
the theme of
Philadelphia
tonight.
And the suburbs where there are outstanding votes. Again, if you're
everything is
late,
looking very contested,
circle, the more votes
and I think Democrats could have avoided this.
The way the candidate who's winning in that area.
Possible that a better campaign could have been run. They could have worked harder on the issues, hammered those home. Could have made the right decision about certain things.
A little bit out there in Allegheny County, where we talked to Brian Todd early in the night.
But they kept trying to lean centrist and
tends to be very close, though. So let's come back and look at this as we come through it. Number one, there are bellwether counties in Pennsylvania. Northampton is one of them, and Trump is winning with 52% of the vote right now. This county usually picks the winner in the state. As I say that, I'll say its twin is Erie, way over here.
Yep.
Not twin geographically. It's twin in that they voted twice for Obama, then for Trump, then for Biden. Erie and Northampton, 2 of the 25 counties that did that. At the moment, the vice president is leading in Erie County. In the last campaign, it was Vigo County, Indiana. Their streak of picking the winner went off the board. We'll see if the 2 swing counties in Pennsylvania split as this election goes through. But if you're looking at this map right now, 85% of the vote, it's this.
That would speak to how divided they are.
If you're looking at 50,000, 60,000, it's easier to do the math. You're looking at 168,000, the math gets hard. Is it impossible? No. But the question is, when you start coming in here, Chester County's at 81%, large suburban counties where if you get 20 or 30% of the votes still out, you can do some big math. Montgomery County at 68%. As you can see, this is a much more populous county, so you're waiting for the 30% to come in there. The vice president would have to win it gangbusters, probably higher than the percentage she's getting so far. I just want to check it against President Biden. She's a little below President Biden, which seems pretty consistent when you go through some of these areas across these states. Bucks County is this one here. Yes, I'm in the right place. That's Montgomery. Oh, Bucks has turned red. That's why I couldn't find it. Because Bucks has turned red. Only 55% of the vote in. But if this is red at the end of the night, Donald Trump's going to win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the more blue-collar, the more competitive of the 3-collar counties. It's Bucks, Delaware, and Montgomery. Used to be, this was solidly Democratic, and the others were Republican. The education divide has flipped that one. Montgomery and Delaware are reliably blue. But look at this. Donald Trump, only 55% of the vote in. But look at that, 50 to 49. If you do it there, you go back in time, 51, 48, 47. So Trump was competitive here. It was a 4-point race, a little more than that 4 years ago. But again, in a close battleground state, you want to move the margins.
Yeah, looking at
county. So let's see if that one holds as we go.
Texas once
if you're in the
again,
Harris
just
campaign,
seeing.
that particularly makes you nervous. And then you come out here, and again, I just want to pick them randomly. This is where Trump
it looks like CNN has
up.
called it
so
for
you're saying,
Cruz
could
as
she
well.
come back
54 to
Philadelphia
43
suburbs,
right now.
Philadelphia? Mathematically, you can
The
make the
83% of the votes in.
Common sense-wise, you start after a while to
Something
think,
would have to change
he's
pretty
getting
drastically
75%
for
here,
all
he's
red
getting
to win at this
78% here.
point,
There's a little bit of vote out
unfortunately.
there, not much. Not hardly anything left there. Not much left
But
there.
let's see what
But his
else
vote
is going
mostly
on
in.
here.
Trump's vote is mostly in when you look at the map. But the question is there
Yeah,
really
you see
enough
how
there?
just a couple
Let's see where they
counties
are here.
there are really going to
94%
decide
Allegheny County. So again,
Pennsylvania.
you're getting 59 to 39, 20-point gap. 20-point
Couple
gap.
of
So,
counties
that's gotta
with
be a lot of
bigger
votes to come in, and
cities.
they say they're at 94%. So it's not impossible. I would say we're starting to lean into the improbable. And let's go over into Michigan.
Erie, Scranton, Philly.
The vice president was leading early on. Then Donald Trump took the lead. He takes the lead sometimes in these states when all these rural counties fill in. Look at them all, right? And again, you just find him, and he's at 67% here, and he's at 65% here, and he's at 66% plus there. Not a lot of people, but when you've got 83 counties and you're winning 60 or 70 of them, that's how it works. And he builds it up there. And then the question is, can the Democrats overcome it with huge numbers where the people live? Number one, Wayne County, we're still only at 16%. So if you're in the Harris
let's
campaign,
see,
you're saying,
Senate
okay,
is
we
looking.
have almost nothing, or less than 20% from Detroit, right? So
The Republicans have flipped 2 seats.
88,000 votes.
So
But
they're
you go
at
back to
49 of
2020,
50.
Again, when Donald Trump won Michigan, he's getting 68, and he gets close to 600,000 votes. So that's sort of our
So, yeah,
test.
the Senate-
When Wayne County gives us more
Senate
votes,
might very
we get
well
huge
be a
number like
Republican
that. It
Senate.
is the split, right? Donald Trump at 30%.
They flipped 3
That's
seats in
Detroit
the
and
House.
suburbs around it. Donald Trump
Republicans
right now,
have flipped 3 seats in the House.
16%.
So,
but
I know.
that, if he's
You could
even
end up
above
with
30, right?
a
Anything
Democratic
above 30
president
is an improvement
with a
for him.
Republican
And
Congress.
so
you could end up with a
we can't see it
Republican
all on this
president
map. We have
and
to
a
get more granular.
clean sweep,
But
everything
Detroit,
Republican.
Is he doing better? Is Trump doing better with the black vote?
And you could see
or
for the
where
next
is
4
overall
years
turnout
if
maybe
they
down a
are
little
better
bit
at
for 2020?
governing or
That's a
not.
big question too. And then here you have
Let's see.
Hamtramck and you have Dearborn. They're not on the map, but they're right here. Those are 2 very important pockets of Arab American voters that were
So it is
200,000
exhausting
plus voted for Joe
here
Biden 4 years
to
ago.
see
We don't know. We don't have that.
what could
granular
potentially
detail
be
just
like a
yet, but
lame
that was
duck
one of the big questions in the
presidency,
campaign.
continue.
Spent a lot of time on my trips at Wayne State campus.
We've definitely
Younger
seen that
voters,
with
a lot
Joe
of Arab
Biden over
Muslim
the past
students
several
at Wayne
years.
State, a lot of
I
young
feel like it's
progressive
been
students at Wayne
mostly a
State.
lame duck
Did they lose the youth
presidency.
vote there? A lot of the questions. Now, I'm raising questions that we'll answer in more detail
Especially in the
tomorrow, next
final
week, and the week after that.
year or
we have
so
final results. But if you're
leading up to this
158,000 votes
election.
ahead, only halfway in Michigan, I mean, I hate to say it, but like you're looking at this, and like that's the best of the 3 blue wall states.
Let's go to Wayne County right now. Let's go to Detroit, where we find Jim Sciutto, who has an update on the vote count there. Jim?
Jake, there have been a lot of questions and some consternation as to why we haven't seen more data from Wayne County yet. And I just spoke with the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson.
Wayne County in Michigan.
We have the answer here. I asked her quite specifically. And she said the reason is that Wayne County, in part, given all the scrutiny on this county as it impacts the outcome of the election in this state, is not reporting partial results. It's waiting until it has either all or the vast majority of those results in before it, in effect, gives that batch and makes it public. And I just want to highlight one point that's going to happen in the next hour, perhaps even the next few minutes. A nondescript U-Haul van is going to drive in one of these doors behind me here with the last remaining outstanding absentee ballots in Detroit, part of Wayne County, about 4,000 we expect. That's the final batch, not just, we are told, of absentee ballots outstanding, but the final outstanding votes in Detroit, big part of Wayne County. So when that truck comes through the door, they begin to tabulate those. That gets us to the point where they're going to have, in effect, all the votes they need to count and get to that point where they're going to be ready to report those final figures. We were told it could be in the next few minutes. We'll be watching. We'll report back when it happens. But that could be the point when you get that big batch reported publicly.
All right, Jim Sciutto in Detroit, Wayne County. And you were noting that we don't have Wayne County to the granular level, that we can't see Dearborn and other places where there were a lot of uncommitted votes during the Democratic primary. But just to remind our viewers, during the Democratic primaries, as a protest of President Biden's support for the Netanyahu government of Israel and its war on Hamas in Gaza, 100,000 Democrats voted uncommitted, presumably most of them as a protest vote against Biden for that issue.
Yes, absolutely. And most of them were located here in Wayne County. Again, you have Detroit, progressive city, but also Hamtramck and Dearborn, just to the north.
So the question is,
large pockets
with 16%
that are very angry at the White House, and then the next one, you come out here again.
Did most of them vote for Kamala, or did they sit this one out?
I think four
times.
They
stay home?
5 times. No, 4 in this election to go to the University of Michigan and talk to people out there. And again, we're at 71% right now, so the numbers can change. But she's at 66%. This is Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. Again. Right. You have a big college campus. It tends to be a very liberal pocket, progressive pocket. You're saying, wow, 65% of the vote, 66 if you round up. That's great.
Oh, my God.
73%. And the math, 157,000.
So it may not be enough to cost them the election or something,
maybe the
but
percentages
it's going to be
maybe all the votes
a significant
from
percentage.
The campus and, it juices up the number a little bit. But if you're looking at that now,
specific counties that they need,
the President of the United States,
they need
and
a big
Donald Trump's at 32%. At 26%. That's. I mean, if that gap holds, and if his improvement like that holds, I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's a big deal, though.
Well, I was
don't
just
know.
Say
Choosing to be on the wrong side of history has
American community in places like Michigan is not that they were going to vote for Donald Trump, but they either were not going to vote or they were going to vote for Jill Stein
got a little
or
less
Cornel
than
West.
45
I'm not sure
minutes
Cornel West is on the ballot in Michigan.
Next polls close.
I mean, these
in
numbers
which case
don't
we'll
add up to
probably get some more
so
states.
I'm guessing that
I think
there
they'll pull
is
up
a
the list
than,
if they haven't already.
My guess would be there's going to be a better than
the states that we can expect
Jill
to
Stein
see
in Michigan than in other states.
More of the polls close.
She worked it hard. She was out there quite a bit. Every trip I was out there, you saw activity. Either
but
she
once
was in
again,
the state
if
or
people are in line, they stay in line.
So just to explain it,
and
now,
they
one
should
of the other
stay
things
in
I heard
line
about people
until you
talking
vote.
about Michigan is everybody in the media, all you talk about is the Arab American, Muslim American vote, but really the issue in terms of a big sizable, bigger chunk of votes is white working class voters, union voters, because the Trump campaign ran ads slamming Harris's position on electric vehicles, EVs, and that is actually going to be more significant ultimately. That was, this is just their projection, than the Arab American, Muslim American vote. Is there any way we can gauge that, how well or poorly she did compared to Biden when it comes to
I could watch endless coverage of the magic wall. It's my favorite thing.
You could look at union households. That's a question on the exit polls. I can show you some counties where we were. 3 times I went out there to talk to union auto worker groups. And I want to just say this up front. There are more automobile manufacturing jobs in the United States today than at any point during the Trump presidency. I repeat, there are more auto manufacturing jobs in the United States today than at any point in the Trump presidency. However, the EV debate is a debate. Stellantis just laid off 1,100 people, right, and in part because they say they have electric vehicles sitting on the lot. The union says that's BS. It's corporate greed. They're not keeping their word. But this is a conversation. Are they going too fast? At a minimum, are they going too fast? There are some auto workers who say, why are you forcing this on us? There are others saying the infrastructure is not in place. Culturally, people aren't ready for them. Why are you going so fast? So one of the places you'll find that is right here in Macomb County. We met Joseph Knowles, just laid off from Stellantis, a black union auto worker. No one in his family had ever voted Republican for president. He was voting for Donald Trump. He said everybody in his family was mad at him. This is where you find them right here. Bill Govier is another Ford worker in Macomb County who wanted to vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When he dropped out and backed Trump, Bill Govier said, that's great. I love them both. And he voted for Trump a third time. So some of them have been in Trump's camp, like a Bill Govier. Joseph Knowles is a +1, voted Democrat all his life, right? So there, Macomb County, we got a long way to go here, 36%. But Trump at 58, when you round that up, Trump at 53 right there. So again, we'll see if that sustains itself.
Yeah.
And the Biden number at 45, the Harris number at 40. If that's the number at the end, then it's very hard.
Well,
to
there
say.
you
182 to 230.
Not all of that change is from that one issue or that one demographic I described, but that is quite
270 to win.
if it holds. Let's go to Pamela Brown at the voting desk. Let's jump to Wisconsin if we could, because Pamela wants to talk about Milwaukee and what's going on there. Pamela?
Yeah, I've been talking to officials there, Milwaukee County as well as the city. Let's look at Milwaukee County right now. A large portion of the vote that remains is from Milwaukee City itself. This is the largest county. This is the largest city in Wisconsin. According to a source in Milwaukee County, 9 out of 19 municipalities are completely reported. And the source also says that the county clerk there expects all results from Milwaukee County.
So those 10 votes, it could go to Trump or it could go to Harris.
Tonight, Central Time. So these results coming in overnight there from Milwaukee County. That is the expectation. Now, let's dive in here to the Milwaukee City. I just spoke to an official there.
27,000 mail-in ballots to be counted.
724 mail-in ballots left to be counted so far. In addition, officials are still waiting for results from 4 wards still, and those would be the day of votes, so from election day. So there's still quite a bit to go to count tonight there in Milwaukee City. For context, 69% went for Biden in 2020. And as I mentioned, this is the largest county in Wisconsin. So we're keeping a close eye on this.
All right, Pamela, thanks so much. Let's take a look at Wisconsin as long as Pamela drove us here.
So a critical point she makes, 4 wards in the city of Milwaukee still have not reported their election day votes. And again, anecdotally, just texting people out in the state, they said turnout was good. They weren't saying great or gangbusters, they were saying good. So you wait. But again, so we're waiting for the city. This is Milwaukee plus the suburbs around it. The county is what you see here. But she's at 66% and Joe Biden's at 69%. So when those city of Milwaukee votes come in, that not only does that percentage need to move, but that math needs to change quite significantly if you're trying to make up that. Now, 96,000, that's better than 150,000, right? Simple math, people. We always say politics can be very complicated. Sometimes it comes down to basic arithmetic. Are there enough votes still out there to overcome a 96,000 vote lead? And so if Pam says 4 big wards are still out in Milwaukee City, there's a little bit more in Milwaukee County, the answer is maybe. Right? Again, you're getting to the point where you're drawing to an inside straight flush, but maybe. So then you look around in other Democratic areas, and again, Eau Claire, she's getting 55% of the vote. I just want to compare that.
Same thing.
That's okay, a little better maybe, but it's not a ton of. It's just not a ton of people there. Then you come down to La Crosse. You're looking at the blue areas, and you're saying, is there anything? Not much left, right? It's not a huge swing anyway.
5%
so even if you pick up some votes, you're not picking up a ton there. So if you're looking at this map now, I just want to check what was our percentage here? 95% in Dane County, and these other blue counties around it. I'll hit them for you. You just see they're pretty small. Population.
I don't know.
Not tiny.
Could be a tough one because
Rock County,
Democrats could have done
Greene
more,
County,
and they could have.
92% Lafayette County.
You would think it would be easy to stomp someone that would,
the map's getting really
be running
trying to figure out
as sort of an anti-democracy candidate. Trump in his very authoritarian ways, his very unpopular policies, the anti-abortion stance. You would think lots of women would come out and stand up behind Harris. I guess we'll see how it all pans out. It could very well have backfired, and Democrats being the do-nothing party this time around
54%.
And being
54%.
incapable
And
of doing
Pennsylvania,
anything
as we
because of
discussed,
Republicans
has the
not
third
wanting to work
largest,
together on
Puerto Rican
legislation.
population on the
You know, the
mainland,
same way
behind
that
only New York and
immigration
Los Angeles. I mean,
policy
New York
got
and
dropped
Florida.
because
So, my
Trump
question
wanted
is,
to save
how
it
is
for
she
when
doing
he is
in this
president to get that
Latino
immigration bill
area,
passed.
compared to
Stuff
Joe
that
Biden
shows
4
it's
years ago?
strictly
Again, cannot go
politics has
granular just
completely
into the city of
you know,
LA.
de-energized a
Look at
lot of
Lehigh County
voters.
here,
You know,
right?
they
And
talked
I
to
can already
someone
tell you,
earlier on
51 to
CNN.
48,
They
if you're
interviewed
the
a
Trump
guy
campaign, sure,
who
you'd like
only
to
got
win.
up to go
But
vote
you're
because
looking
his
at
girlfriend
48%
told
of
him
Lehigh
to.
County,
So I
and
mean,
you're feeling
you
pretty
know,
good,
this could
because
be
you were
part of the
46 last
electorate
time.
that we're
Right, and
working
again,
with
within
here
the
is
battleground
people
state,
that are
you think
either
margins
lazy
within the
or
margins, the
apathetic
battlegrounds
or
within the
just been
battlegrounds.
you know
So,
driven
yep,
to
Joe
feel
Biden
like
at
they
53%
don't
with
have an effect on what
98,000
happens
votes.
in this country,
The
and
vice
you know
president
you
at
can see
50%
it by
with
looking
93,000
around at
votes. Now,
how
we're not completely
difficult
done
it
there,
is to
but
afford
that
a house
5,000
or
votes
how
makes a big difference.
difficult
It
it is
just
to
does,
survive in
right?
this
So
economy and how the
that's
prices of
there, right?
everything
So then you come out
is
here,
going up.
and you come up. Let's just move on up, right? Carbon County. Look at this. Trump getting 73% of the vote. You know, he's improved. That's one of the places he's overperformed himself. And then you move up here. This is Lackawanna County, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Joe Biden's hometown. It's a tough, competitive blue-collar area, but 51 to 48 now. 54 to 45.
And that movement
then.
of 4%
Right.
can be the whole thing.
It's a couple thousand votes here. It's a couple of thousand votes there. I want to show you
By
something
the way,
else.
can I just point out
Erie
that
has now flipped.
Erie, which has always voted with the presidential
else we're doing here.
victor in Pennsylvania and nationally, is now with Trump.
Has flipped, and let's see where the turnout is there. Again, it's one of the 25. They're at 95%. It's very close, but it's always very close. So you see Erie County, very close there. And I just want to come across the state, Northampton County. So you're on the, your Buffalo, New York border.
Yeah, I don't know.
New Jersey
it's
here.
looking like it
You've got 52 to 47
could
there. Not done yet,
potentially
but the two
be a red
multi-pivot
sweep
counties.
of Wisconsin,
Twice for
Michigan,
Obama, then for Trump,
LA,
then for Biden.
Pennsylvania.
At the moment they're going back to Trump. I just want to show
and,
one more thing
Georgia.
we haven't shown tonight.
I don't know.
I just want to bring this up and bring this out. It's not here. It is here. No, it is here. Sorry. I will figure this out eventually. I promise you. I just have too many gizmos. Just want to come in here. Come on. And show you this. So let's go out nationally first. Everyone's been talking about
cost of living.
There'll be a lot of questions asked about this after the fact. This is not a good environment.
This is why I love the magic wall.
Kamala Harris is the incumbent vice president. What this shows you is not votes. This shows you the darker the county, the more that county has been hit by inflation. Meaning, the darker the county, the more cost of living, energy prices, gas prices, housing prices in a lot of places have outpaced wage increases. Right? Try to find me. See the green?
Yeah, what does that mean? That's
the county where your wages have outpaced inflations. You can use a hand. You will fill one hand. In the more than 4,000 counties and townships in the United States, you use one hand to fill out the counties where wages have outpaced inflation.
So can I make two observations?
So I just want to come back into your comment.
Oh my goodness!
I want to come back to your comment. The darker the county, the more punishing, the more inflation has outpaced your wages, your cost of living. And just look. I mean, the fact that she's doing as well in the suburbs is a testament to the Democratic strength there. But you see in these other places, it's just that was the headwind. And that came up. I can tell you I was on the road for 15 months, and that came up from the first trip to the last trip, even for people voting for Harris. Even for people gladly and proudly voting for Harris, we're saying it still sucks when I go to the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's also why the right track, wrong track numbers are 75% wrong track, 25, but the election's not 75%, 25, because there are people who think it's wrong track, but they're still going to vote for the Democrat. Yet, this is difficult to fight against if you're the incumbent.
That's North Carolina. Especially you're trying to win back.
Look at all the dark colors in Arizona and Nevada.
It gets worse as you go west. That's what I was going to say. Then you're in Georgia. Look, this is the Atlanta suburbs, right? If she loses just a little tiny bit, right? And look down here. These are working class people, right? And then you're absolutely right. Then you come out here and you look at in Arizona. That's Maricopa County. That's the largest county. Up here is usually Democratic area.
He's winning Maricopa County.
He is at the, that's just the, let's see. Let's come up there. It's close. That one's close still at half and half as you bring that out. And then you come here. This to me, of all the visits, you want to talk a place that still has the COVID body bruise because unemployment hit 30%, twice the national average.
Tourism.
And then the cost of living. I mean, look at it right there where, again, the darker the county, the more, and out here it's housing more than anything. Housing in Vegas, a lot of people rent. There's not a lot of land to build new houses. So the rents go up. And once the COVID moratorium on rent increases went up, rents went up through the chutes. And a lot of the working class people out there complaining about that.
I wasn't done with Pennsylvania,
well, we'll go back
but hold on, because Pamela.
Jake really wants to get in here.
I'm gonna throw it to Pamela. She has some information on Georgia. If you could. There you go. Pamela, what do you got for us in Georgia?
This is important information in Georgia. I'm getting from Gabriel Sterling, the top election official there. The margin right now in Georgia
is like, please let me get something in.
Votes, right?
I have questions.
100,000
but yeah, that was really fascinating seeing
right
how badly inflation has hit certain counties.
Now, he says the split will go marginally
and seeing
Harris.
that there's only a handful of counties where their wages have outpaced inflation.
40,000.
So I guess make note. Maybe it's
that went to Biden in 2020.
Maybe it's worth moving.
Carroll, outstanding, 18,000. This is a county that went to Trump in 2020. And then you have the blue counties of DeKalb and Fulton. DeKalb has 3,000 outstanding ballots. Fulton has 2,000 outstanding ballots. Again, just to recap, tight margin, 118,000, 100,000 votes still out in Georgia. And Gabriel Sterling says it's the split coming from that will be marginally, his prediction is for Harris. But this is what the data coming in is showing right now. Back to you.
John, do you have any questions for Pamela?
You say the total outstanding votes is 100,000?
He said 100,000 votes out. Yep.
Well,
and so I just gave you a little snapshot of where some of those places are. Chatham, Carroll, I asked, when are we going to find out these results from these counties? He did not have a timeline exactly for that, but hopefully soon.
But the significance, obviously, that Donald Trump right now has a margin of 118,838 votes, and you're saying there's 100,000 left.
If he's being literal, sometimes 100,000, they're getting calls from counties and they say 20,000, it's really 22.
Right.
30,000, it could be 33.
John,
but if he's
can I just jump in?
Yes, please.
Actually, we asked about how do you know these numbers, and actually by law, they have to have it, the actual numbers. So I understand your point, but I think they do have more precise numbers based on what the law requires.
Interesting.
Well, then if that math sends a shockwave through the Harris campaign.
Yeah.
If that is literal. Just even if she won them all, if there's 100,000 left, and she won them all, and she won't, he's 118,000 votes.
She said marginally for Harris, which means probably like 53-47 or something along those lines. Interesting. Well, we'll have a decision desk.
Enough energy in Georgia.
Can I go back to Pennsylvania just for 1 second? I want to look at Philly for a second because it was so important. It's so important for every Democrat to drive up the margins here. Harris is with 78% reporting. Harris is at 78.1%. to Donald Trump's 20%. We've already talked about this. This is a better performance by Donald Trump than in 2020 and also in 2016.
So watch where he is, right? You could look at it either way. He was at 18%. Now he's above 20%. If we go all the way back in time, 21 the state, he was at 15%. The third-party candidates mattered a little bit there, more statewide than they did in Philadelphia, but a little bit. So look at, you just track Donald Trump in Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia, 15%. And 108,000 votes in 2016, 18%, 132,000 votes in 2020. We're not quite
30 minutes until the next polls close.
It's a lower vote count.
So yeah, we might hang around until then, and then we'll reassess where things are at from there.
The last one. Absolutely.
See if we have any additional coverage we want to do involving the election. I have some other videos I want to make revolving around other issues, but I really want to do some election coverage.
Trump's support is across Pennsylvania.
We'll not only keep track of what happens tonight, but we might
30%.
Either go live tomorrow or have a video
so if you're going to offset
discussing where things are at.
You just got to run it up. You just got to run it up here. And she's at 78%. He was at 81%.
I don't know why. This stresses out other people, but I do enjoy watching the discussion here at the wall and seeing things,
numbers,
both
turnout, math,
from macro and micro levels here.
I read this in an exit poll, and
I wish they would let us look at all that data that he's able to pull up. I mean, really, here we're just able to look at very basic things.
Black men in Pennsylvania in 2020, 10% went for Trump.
Not able to see all those,
in 2024,
fancy numbers.
25% went for Trump. Black men in Pennsylvania more than doubled for Trump.
Well, if that number's true, I mean, after every election, you have the conversation, right? After 2016, it was what's happening to Democrats. I mean, it was already happening, but Trump put on steroids the Democrats' problem with white working class people, people who work with their hands. And now I would say, take the white out of that. Take the white out of that.
It's just about
Nevada and Arizona go red.
Men, the gains among Latino men are among people who work with their hands, who have been punished. Who the conversations that strike you from 15 months on the road is, you know, I could afford.
Yeah, so
a new
they are
car,
saying Georgia
but then if any prices
might
go
actually
up,
go
I can't take
red.
that loan. Like I cannot put. There's no way. So you're asking your mechanic, can I keep this thing on the road for a little bit longer?
And with Trump
and
having
at
a
Christmas
lead,
time, you're telling your kids you're getting one gift, not two. Or we were going to try to go to Disneyland, but
Pennsylvania,
we're not this year.
Michigan,
We're going to go to the amusement
Wisconsin.
park, you know, that's a couple hours away by car, but we're not going to Disneyland or some big thing like that. These are the conversations you're having in state after state after state with people who have working class jobs. And some of them, I mean, union auto workers, you know, they think that's a good middle class job. Union auto workers who get the employee discount.
Associated Press is saying 210 to 230 right now, so they are showing Harris a little higher.
On the road, because I just can't do that on the family.
But yeah, it's looking like Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania might all be red, with Minnesota going blue.
Well, Jake, you know, we have been waiting to hear whether or not he was actually going to come here to the convention center. And just to remind everyone at home, there are two separate parties happening right now.
But we'll see.
A watch party
Once again, it's all
here where I am
still
at the
too early to
convention
call. It's
center in
just,
West
you
Palm
know,
Beach, Florida. And then
warning
Donald Trump was
signs
also
that we're
having an
looking
event
at.
his Mar-a-Lago club, surrounded by Republican
Projections.
allies, major donors, people like Elon Musk and RFK Jr. But we are now hearing from sources that Donald Trump is making plans to come over here. Obviously, they have to prepare the motorcade for him to get in to take about a 10-minute drive over here where the convention center is. But Jake, that is a sign of how good the Trump campaign is feeling based on the numbers that John King just read there. That Donald Trump is preparing to come over here. He said earlier he had no speech
that
planned.
red mirage continues, or
here. Kristen Holmes, we've been watching all of this, and
apart.
obviously the Trump team has been watching the breakdown here of how he's been doing.
And
with
looking at the Senate race, Republicans have gained 2 seats, Dems have lost 2 seats.
Certainly in 2016.
Yeah, and we were told
looking at the House, Republicans have gained 1 seat, which has resulted in Democrats having lost a seat.
Now, I do want to add to what Donald Trump is doing right now, because we were
And
told that
there are going to be more Republican governors, 27 to 23, than there will be Democrat
Donald Trump
governors.
was going to come over, they were going to bring
So,
those
interesting.
members that were there
It
at
could
Mar-a-Lago
be-
over here, and I am told that
could be a
currently
full red
those members
sweep
are
here.
being bussed over here, meaning that Donald Trump's arrival is likely imminent.
Or it could
Now,
just
all of
be
those
that the
members
president
are
ends up
obviously
being
gonna have to be in
Harris.
place, as we've reported.
That's
It's kind of sparse here. There's not a lot
my
of people.
best
They're
guess at
expecting
this
over
moment,
100
but
people to be
you know,
bussed over
anything
here.
could happen, I
Those
guess.
people are going to have to be in place before Donald
Put it
Trump
that
takes
way.
the stage, because these are going to be some of his biggest fans. They're going to want to fill the crowd here. But now they're coming over, so that gives you a little bit of a timeline of when we see Donald Trump moving from Mar-a-Lago to here. As we know, this room is about to fill up pretty quickly, probably within the next half hour.
Yeah, and of course the big question is what he's going to say. Obviously, he wouldn't come here likely and not take the stage that's behind us. It's already a room that's filled with his supporters. We'll be waiting to see what they say. Jake, obviously something that we've been watching closely, as ever since a few hours ago when those Virginia numbers were coming in, that was what first gave that sense of confidence to the Trump campaign. And obviously that has only continued to grow ever since seeing the calls in North Carolina, how well these Republican Senate candidates are doing also, and those numbers there in Pennsylvania, Jake. All right, Caitlin, thanks so much. As we prepare for what we think is going to happen, Mr. Trump coming out and speaking, it is a good moment for us just to take a measure of where the night is at this moment. We're still, of course, waiting to call several of the battleground states, 6 out of 7 of them. But Chris, right now, I think it's fair to say anybody watching would rather be Donald Trump than Kamala Harris at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if he declares victory, he hasn't won the race yet. There is still a potential path to 270 electoral votes. None of the blue wall states have been called. If he says the trends are looking very good tonight, you can't argue with that.
And I'm
Yeah,
going to
the
go
wall
to Jake
states.
for a major projection.
That's right. We have another major projection for you
Uh-oh.
now. And CNN can project that
Yeah.
Georgia will go to Donald Trump. Georgia,
Uh-oh.
a very highly contested battleground of 16 electoral
Not looking
votes.
good for Democrats
This is
there.
the second of 7 battleground states that we have called, and both of them have been for Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what that means for the electoral math. Donald Trump right now has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris right now has 182 electoral votes. There are 270 needed to win. As of right now, CNN is not ready to project who is going to win the presidency.
Blue wall.
I'm sorry for so rudely interrupting. Donald Trump has now been projected to have won the second of seven key battleground states, with 5 more to go. And obviously, the blue wall states, as you were saying, are crucial.
And this is a flip because in 2020, Joe Biden won.
Pennsylvania.
Now, despite the fact that Donald Trump tried really hard to find those 11,000 plus votes, they weren't there. And this time around, the projection that you just made is that they are there, plus, who knows however many votes there are. So this is
I think
even
they
more
tried to rally
why
Georgia, but
the Harris campaign manager, Jenna Dillon,
you can't keep playing people, You can't keep telling people that you're going to do stuff for them and then don't do it.
The Sun Belt is basically gone.
And that's a lot
of
what politics can end up being at the end of the day. You can promise Georgians that you're going to give them a better life and that you're going to enact these policies that help them. And
we went into the night
Donald Trump comes around and promises them something else, and they end up believing him because the Democratic Party has kind of been a bit of a do-nothing party. It's not to say that they haven't done anything
for Trump in our exit polls. Similarly, with Latino men also going
haven't done the great progressive things that they've often strived to do. They've leaned centrist to the right, especially with Biden.
And secretly vote for someone
most candidates
else. The people who in the past
Democratic
voted for
Party
Trump
have actually
came home to
leaned
Trump.
a little more centered than left.
People will be going
whereas
through
all the
these
Republican
exit polls,
candidates
the
will often
analysis
paint them
and
as being socialist or extreme
left.
left.
Work for Harris on gender. Back in 2020, Biden won women by 7 points more than Trump won men. This time it's exactly even. Harris won women by 10 points. Trump won men by 10 points. But the one that just stands out, sort of a flashing light, Jake, Hispanics. Biden won Hispanics 4 years ago by 32 points. As of tonight, Harris has won Hispanics by 8 points.
Can I just add one other thing about what this Georgia projection means? What it means is that she's got to win Pennsylvania. If she doesn't win Pennsylvania, it's over.
Yeah, no, absolutely, especially with the fact that he is leading right now in the 5 battleground states that we have not called. He is leading in all 5 of them: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump widening his lead in the race to 270 electoral votes with this new win in Georgia. Ballots are, of course, still being counted in these crucial battlegrounds. We could get new reporting on votes at any time. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.
Really? Really? I guess we'll see how that goes. So yeah, we'll keep going here for another 30 minutes or so. I am going to use this opportunity to work in a quick break as well. Okay, here we go. Harris campaign co-chair.
We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU.
Oh, did we miss
Harris.
We got to the very end.
And there you have
Let's see what their assessment is of his
Harris
speech.
Campaign saying it's okay, everybody can go home. We're not going to have a decision tonight, and the vice president is not coming out to address, but we'll speak to the crowd tomorrow.
That is not going to land in a comforting way with Harris supporters, I think. And Nancy said it. We've all been talking about it.
Yeah, that's not exciting. That's not very energizing.
This feels to 2016. And
so they're saying, what are they saying, 189, 246?
I was in that room addressing the crowd saying you will hear from her, but you're not going to hear from her tonight. And then we ended up hearing from her the next day.
And also
I mean, I guess that's
everybody still
kind of consistent with what we're seeing.
It's a big sense
across
of
the board. Let me refresh.
He didn't say we still have a path.
No.
He said, "Was their votes still being counted?"
Yeah, he said the votes.
Yeah, AP is still showing 210 to 230.
That leads you to believe that there is that there still is hope. He didn't say, "Look, there's no chance." He said the votes are still being counted. So, there's a big case of deja vu, I think, for many people tonight.
What a shot this is, though, to see these supporters at her alma mater at Howard University and many D.C. residents there in that neighborhood walking off of that campus right now, wondering when they will know the results of this election.
I know that as we watch the crowd disperse and wait for word from the Harris campaign about what is next, we enter this late morning period where votes are just still being counted. In Pennsylvania, it could take a couple of days. Michigan, it could take a day. I want to bring in David Becker on that because, David, you've spent so much time speaking with state election officials about the vote count. What can you tell us about timing?
So right now, I think Philadelphia in particular and some the Pennsylvania counties are still looking to probably finish up a lot of those mail ballots. They had to start processing today, probably looking into tomorrow or Thursday. But depending upon the margin, we might get to the point where there's enough for us to call it. Michigan, I think they're mainly focusing on Wayne County right now in the city of Detroit. I think there's some that are still to be reported. I have an update on Arizona in particular. I just talked to a Maricopa County election official, and there's about 650,000 ballots that they have not reported out yet.
Really? That's all they're doing, 720?
Plus the mail ballots that were delivered today, and they're not sure of that.
I was like, why
yet.
does this look so grainy?
I'm a
gamer. This got to see that 1080.
Perhaps even
60
Thursday until we
FPS,
get
come
those.
on.
And that's always what happens in Arizona because
all right, let me use this
so
opportunity
many,
to take a quick break, and I will be right back. But we'll continue to let some of this CBS coverage air. See what their assessment is, just to get more ideas on
Thursday if it comes
more
down
commentary.
to Arizona.
I'd say about Thursday. I mean, if the path for Harris right now
So
is
they're
as
saying
it might
Thursday.
be, is Pennsylvania, Michigan, and then possibly
Today is
Arizona
Tuesday.
or the long shot of Wisconsin.
We'll see.
Arizona's going to take probably a day or two. Pennsylvania might take about that long too. And remember, that's still significantly earlier, especially given the margins than what we saw in 2020.
I remember it took all the way till Saturday.
Right.
Much more to discuss. You're watching CBS News America Decides Election 2024.
I had progressively fallen deeper into the world of online sports betting.
The risk is the rush.
What do you think is driving the spike in popularity?
I think it's legality.
If it's legal, I'm going to use it. There are ways to bet when you are 18.
We've created an epidemic of child gambling.
You can't walk into a male dormitory in a college campus without sports betting happening.
It's America's most neglected problem.
I used sports betting as a way to escape, when in reality, I'm choosing self-destruction. Whatever I had left, it was gone.
The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright, shiny faces.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my two good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go. With the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives, real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Nations are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Come on, Julia. Oh, no. I will if you will.
You go, gal.
Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices.
Hey, give me some love,
baby.
We'll see you 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. The ads rolling through. So let's shift.
People who are most upset listed themselves as angry or facing severe hardship. Those are the people who really went for Trump.
Yeah, I have to confess that I always thought in the last week or two of the campaign, this idea of the trying to appeal to secret voters was something of a risk. Anderson?
Jake, thanks very much. This is the first time we've all talked. David Axelrod, what do you make of what we've seen?
Look, I think that this was a race that was very, very close in the polling. And for the longest time, including up until last night, I and others said we had notions, we had feelings, but we weren't going to make any predictions. And the truth is we're sitting here tonight and we're waiting for the 3 states that can determine the race one way or the other to render a verdict, and they're close. And she's right to wait to have those votes counted. But what was very clear watching the night unfold is that rural areas voted for her in significantly less numbers than, or percentage-wise, than they did for Joe Biden 4 years ago. And she could make up the difference in some of these suburban areas and the cities. And I think the discussion that John King had was very pertinent. I care deeply, more than I can say tonight, about democracy and what it means. I've said it a million times, I'm the son of a refugee, and I revere this country, and I'm so grateful for what it's given my family and everyone else. But part of democracy, and this is my major difference with Donald Trump, part of a democracy is to honor the will of the people, to honor its institutions. And I imagine that that's what the vice president's going to do when the final verdict comes in, if it's not a positive verdict. And I think there is a message in that. Yeah. There is a message in that. And I think it's an important message.
I think the reality is Kamala Harris faced tremendous headwinds heading into this. I was riding on a bit of a vibe, in a sense, in the final stretch because she did feel like she had energy. But the fundamentals have been against her from the outset. Biden's unpopularity was dragging her. She had opportunities to create distance with him, and I think chose not to. I think it's a respectful thing. You don't want to throw your boss under the bus. But the reality is Donald Trump was going to blow Joe Biden out of the water, and she needed to create that distance. There's also just some fundamental shifts that I think are happening, a realignment with the parties and within the country, and I think we need to be more in tune with them. This could end up being the most diverse coalition that ends up possibly electing Donald Trump, and we need to hear about why that is. It's the issues of the economy, borders.
The way this is playing out tonight, right, I think we need to recognize that over half of America feels very strongly about the things that Donald Trump feels strongly about, right? A secure border, the economy, crime. It might not be a perfect messenger, but the message resonates. And what we talked about this earlier, about the check engine light, all those things are real. Democracy is a luxury when you can't pay your bills. And I think, there are a great deal of Americans tonight who are sitting back and saying, kind of looking at everyone, that they view as the elite and kind of sneering and saying, we told you so. We're not garbage. We're hardworking people. We believe in these things, right? People don't like to be talked down to. This coalition, this is Hispanics. Trump is crushing in Hispanics, the Hispanic vote in Pennsylvania, right? He's getting 50% of the women vote.
Lehigh County, he's up from 2020. He was at 45%. He's now at 48%.
Yeah, Allentown is, we were talking about how, the Puerto Ricans would come out. He's winning those votes because you know what those people care about? They care about security. They care about economy. They care about those things around the kitchen table. So if the former president is going to be the next president, I think there's a lot of, America's going to have to sit back. He's going to win. It looks like he may win the popular vote, right? There's going to be a reckoning in America that people are going to have to sit back and say, maybe some of these things Trump's espousing are not crazy. Maybe he's right? Maybe the Democratic Party needs to come back to the center if they want to be competitive again. There's going to be a part where they're going to say, we need to go further to the left.
Van?
I hear what you're saying, and I do see it differently because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. And those people didn't deserve to be respected and held and talked to. Those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decides to do.
Yeah, but Van, how do we know that those people didn't vote? A large portion of those people aren't part of the people that elected Donald Trump.
Well,
right? I think that's a good part of the electorate. And the black women, the party, the Democratic Party, let those black women down. Not Donald Trump.
Dave,
we got to go.
Okay.
Let's go back to Jake.
All right.
All right, thanks so much. And we're going to bring you a key
More
race alert
alerts.
right now. Let's check in with the states that we have not projected. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still in the lead there. 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 216,000 vote lead there with 92% of the estimated vote coming in from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Michigan now, the Wolverine state. Donald Trump, 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 203,000 vote lead.
That lead's getting a little bigger.
Of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, that's the Badger State. Donald Trump, 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.3% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 110,000 vote lead with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote.
182 to
Kamala Harris has
246
49.2% of the
is
vote.
what CNN
Donald Trump with
is
a
saying.
12,242 vote lead there, a little bit more
Whereas
narrow with
AP
52%
is saying
of the estimated
210 to
vote
230
from Arizona. We are awaiting more votes from the outstanding presidential battlegrounds as this race goes into the night shift, and we expect to hear Donald Trump speak to his supporters very soon. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.
That might be interesting to hear because, Harris had her campaign advisor come out and speak, and so we've seen them say that, she's not coming out tonight. We're not going to have more details, see you in the morning, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It very well could be an interesting night and day ahead of us. But I'm glad that we've done this coverage. We've had some really interesting questions and discussions. And there's definitely been a lot of information to look at, both looking backwards and at what the current situation looks like. But yeah, it's looking like Trump is very close to another presidency. And I mean, I guess, bright side, if you're not a fan of Trump, he wouldn't be able to run again if he did win. This would be his last presidency. Unless, some sort of unrest were to happen and he were to run for a third term or something crazy. But we've never seen that happen before. And I would hope that we would try to prevent something like that. But yeah, it could be devastating in terms of the Supreme Court. It, very well could make abortion illegal across the land. That could becomes something that ends up being a law rather than something that is pushed to the states. It just depends if enough people got out there and voted on that issue. And, most people are not single-issue voters. I mean, some women might be, but, I think the men are going to have different concerns, whereas women are going to be more concerned about their rights and their health care, whereas men are going to be concerned more about things like the economy and immigration for some reason. So, I don't know. But I share all these concerns myself. I have concerns about healthcare, the economy, Palestine. Immigration is pretty low on my list, but I do understand that it is something that you definitely have to manage. But it's not the deepest concern there. I even understand what this ad is. Oh, it's perfume. Okay. It's like Margot Robbie was like fawning over somebody and going swimming, and I was like, what is the deal here? But yeah, we'll wait around. Let's see if we can at least get either what they were saying, about 30 minutes or so until the next polls close. We get some more results here. And I mean, maybe we'll hang around for Donald Trump's speech. It all just depends, because sometimes he leaves people waiting quite a long time. Okay, so they're calling New Mexico here for Kamala Harris. I'm going to unmute.
New Mexico with its 5 electoral votes. What does that bring us in
Not
terms of
surprising.
the math? Let us look. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris, with the addition of New Mexico, has 187 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes, as always, needed to win. Let's look at the states we have not called yet. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead there still. 51.1%
Still lead
of the
with
vote.
92.
Ahead of Kamala Harris, who has 47.8% of the vote. Trump leads with more than 214,000 votes. That's with an estimated 92%
It's close, but
of the vote in.
that's a significant
Michigan now,
lead.
Donald Trump in the lead, 52.1% of the vote. Kamala
leads,
Harris, 46%
it's not just
of the vote.
100,000
Donald Trump
anymore.
with a more than
It's
215,000
200,000 in
That's
some
with
of these states.
62% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine state. The Badger state of Wisconsin now, Donald Trump, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.2% of the vote. Donald Trump, more than 113,000 votes ahead of Harris, with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. In Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there, too, 49.9% of the vote. Harris,
That's a much closer race right
of the
now.
vote. Donald Trump with a more than
But
12,000
still
vote
more
lead.
votes to
That's
count.
with only 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Still a lot of votes to count in Arizona. Nevada now, they've really counted a lot of votes. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6%.
Looking like Nevada's not going to go her way either.
1,000 vote lead. That is with 70%
So that stays
of the
flipped.
estimated vote in for.
I believe
from,
that state
from Nevada.
flipped
Last time we
from
looked, it was only 2%. John King,
2020,
look at that.
yeah,
Your
it was
buddies
blue.
in Nevada reporting their votes there.
Well, last time it took a very, very long time. So if they're starting to get some in tonight, that's progress for Nevada. I just want to show this. This was the conversation you guys were having over at the panel table the other day, just on the importance of
I don't know. To
Pennsylvania.
me, it looks
As
like a
we're at this
repeat
point
of
now, where
2016.
North Carolina and Georgia have gone for Trump. You see the yellow of the states still on the map. Now, we project
Some of it.
Alaska is going to come in for the Republican. If that were to change,
We
that
shall
would change
see.
these paths. But there is no
Might
path
be able to eke
270
something out here.
for the vice president that does not include the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, yes, she needs to win all blue wall states to get there. That would get her there on its own as long as she wins Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. But there's no way to get there without Pennsylvania, which is why that is absolutely critical that she win there. I just want to show you what I mean.
Pennsylvania's a
Let's
big
assume
one.
that she came back and won Michigan. She's trailing now. Let's assume she came back and won Wisconsin. She's trailing now. She's trailing here, and she's trailing here. Even if she won them all, if Donald Trump won that, he'd be over the top.
Yeah.
And so, if she is winning this, she can afford
So
to
even
lose
if she
something
won
else
everything
along
else
the
and
way.
he won
But because that's why
Pennsylvania,
we talked about
still
this
a
for
loss.
weeks, and that's why both campaigns spent more money in Pennsylvania than any other state, Commonwealth by far. The 19 electoral votes, 19 versus 16, 19 versus 11, 19 versus 10. It just affects your path to 270 math in such a profound way. So as you look at where we are now and you come back out into the latest vote count right there, Pennsylvania is paramount. That does not mean the other ones don't matter. Just winning Pennsylvania wouldn't be enough to get her there either. I'm just saying she can't win without Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Donald Trump can. Donald Trump can, but she cannot win without Pennsylvania. And so if you look here right now, where are you? That's 219,342 votes with 93% of the vote. And this is why when you heard Cedric Richmond at the Harris event,
is
said
Erie
we were not
going
hearing
red
from the
now?
Vice President tonight, and that she wants every vote counted. You did not hear him say, we see a viable path to victory. He did not speak those words. That doesn't mean it's not mathematical. You know, the states have not been called. But he did not say we see a viable path to victory. He said we want all the votes to be counted. And so you look here at 51%. Again, one of the big questions was, could Donald Trump get over 50? In most of these battleground states in 2016 and 2020, he was a 47, he was a 48, maybe he was a 49. In Pennsylvania right now, Donald Trump is at 51.1. And again, you're looking at a state, the vice president simply, there's a lot of states to count still, but if you want to look at one question, she cannot lose Pennsylvania. She just cannot. The math doesn't work if she does. So you're looking, yes, there are still some votes down to be counted down here. I think when we get closer to 100% in Philadelphia, that's going to settle the math once and for all. It's improbable at the moment. Let's just be honest about it, but it's not impossible. So you keep it on the board right there, and you look. 78% though. 78% estimated in Philadelphia. She's at 78%. Look at the 484. You come back here, 78% to 81%. 3 points in the state's largest city that is absolutely fundamental to Democratic victory, underperforming Joe Biden by 3 percentage points, and at the moment, more than 100,000 votes. We're not done with the math yet. That's it. I mean, you can find other places too. You can find. You know, we looked through some of the blue-collar counties earlier where she was underperforming Biden and Trump was moving up. You know, we can come back and look at that again if you want. Just Trump outperforming 2020 by 3% or more. This is significant. It's happening mostly in counties he's winning anyway. But she's overperformed a little bit in Chester County down there, which, you know, again, 8-10 years ago was a Republican county. But where is Donald, in Bucks County, which he's right at is currently flipped to red. But a lot of it's out here in places where Donald Trump already runs strong. He's running stronger, and that's critical. One of the questions coming into the campaign was, well, Donald Trump got 2016 phenomenon, more votes in 2020, but he lost. Are there really more Trump voters out there? Well, yes, apparently there are. And you see them right there, and you see them in other states as well. So there's Pennsylvania. Jake, I just want to go through these quickly to see if the math has changed. 63%. We've been stuck there for a little bit. You come down here. Again, when you're looking at 224,000 votes, Joe Biden won Michigan by 154,000 votes. Donald Trump's at 224,000 votes. And so you're looking and you're saying, where? Where? Is it possible? Well, the only place you can get that many votes is Wayne County. They're at 24%. So you see, you know, she's at 58% right there. Donald Trump at 39%. Again, you want the conversation that is going to start once these states are called, assuming we stay on the trajectory we are on, which the trajectory we are on, not there, we're not the finish line, but the trajectory we are on is an overwhelming Donald Trump victory in the Electoral College. The possibility of flipping back all 3 blue wall states. But even if he loses Michigan, look at that. That's going to be a conversation in the Democratic Party. How's that happening? How is Donald Trump getting 30% in up to 39%? How's that happen? How did he get 30%? The Democrats were already debating how did he get 30% 4 years ago. If that number holds and Donald Trump's above 35%, close to 40% in Wayne County, Michigan, the Democratic Party has a big conversation on its hand. When I started doing this a very long time ago, it was about the Reagan Democrats in Macomb County. Now it's going to be about the Trump Democrats everywhere. Including black men in Wayne County.
The Trump Democrats.
Saying it's the Arab American vote. Young voters didn't come out.
Unusual.
The analysis will start as soon as we're done getting someone to 270. But that's a huge problem. And you see it again here. Again, the foundation of the Democratic Party is urban America, and then the close-in suburbs. That's where the math is. And that has allowed Democrats, allowed Joe Biden to withstand all of that. Donald Trump's phenomenon in rural America, where he's not only winning those counties, but the math is up, and this time again, he turned out more voters. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Milwaukee County, the city and the suburbs around it.
61%
but the vice president's
reporting.
at 66%. That looks impressive, except when you go back 4 years ago, and you see the president of the United States was at 69%. And so in place after place, especially starting in the foundations, Anderson, the building blocks of the Democratic Party, which is urban America, she's having a problem. We're not done with all the vote counting yet, but she's underperforming President Biden from 4 years ago. In the close-in suburbs, I can find some exceptions to this, but in the close-in suburbs, she's doing reasonably well.
I mean, he's undoubtedly
in some places.
a better
Trump
candidate,
is doing better in urban America,
especially
a little
then,
bit better in
but
some
now
key
he's
suburbs
much
in
older.
battleground states, and turning out even more
and
voters
relatively
in the red rural
a lame
counties,
duck
where we have seen
president
the
at
Trump
this
phenomenon
point.
in 2016 and 2020. It's with us again in 2024.
Yeah. John, we'll come back to you. Caitlin Collins at Trump headquarters, where we expect the former president to speak soon. Caitlin, do we know how soon he may get there, and any idea on what he may say?
No, Anderson. Obviously, we're
Nope.
waiting to see
You
what
never
this is going to
know.
look like because this is so new to
He always
the Trump
keeps you
campaign
waiting,
as
and then he
well.
comes out
They've been
and
watching these numbers
the
carefully
whole
all
proud to
night.
be
They've seen
American
John
in the
Keegan going back and
YMCA.
forth on the magic wall, but they themselves obviously were waiting
The
to
whole
see
dance.
were there any surprises in store. They were watching closely. The gut check of North Carolina and Georgia obviously came through for them, and now we are told Donald Trump is on. He is making preparations to head over here to the convention center. This is where the official watch party is, and Anderson, we saw aides preparing the teleprompter on stage, heightening the lectern and the microphone to make sure it's ready. So a clear sign that we do expect to hear from him.
It's
when
RFK,
that
isn't
happens
it?
remains to be seen. And Kristen, obviously, as we've been looking at this, Trump is famously very superstitious. He doesn't like to, start planning things too far in advance, talking too much about who he'd put in a potential cabinet, much less working on a speech, which he said today he did not have remarks prepared.
And even the people around him were hesitant to put anything down. There were some conversations about
prepared.
potentially
Oof.
drafting something either
That
way.
means he's
drafting
probably
two
gonna
versions of
ramble.
the speeches, but they were still hesitant to even do that. And a reminder that Donald Trump finished up his rally last night at 2:30 in the morning. When they got on the plane, there were some conversations about what tonight was going to look like, but essentially everybody was like, let's wait and see, let's go and see. Now, I am told that when Donald Trump gets here, it's not clear if he's going to go to the stage right away. We know, obviously, they have called North Carolina and Georgia, which were big wins for the Trump campaign. Whether or not they're going to wait for one more of those big swing states remains to be seen. We do believe he's going to be here imminently, that he's going to leave Mar-a-Lago, head over here. We obviously know that they've bussed over all of the people from Mar-a-Lago who have just arrived here. We've seen this room fill out. But how exactly he's going to handle this moment remains to be seen. We know what happened, obviously, in 2020. I am told he's in a very different headspace now than he was at that point, probably because of the fact that they are telling him that he could win this.
Yeah, you could sense that today when he was voting at his polling place as well. He was talking in more reflective ways about the campaign. He was saying he believed it was one of the best campaigns they've ever run, talking about in terms of just pure messaging. I mean, obviously, some of his allies would disagree from the candidate himself on that front. But one thing about this
AP says 210 to 247.
who were invited by the campaign, a lot of his allies were also at Mar-a-Lago with him. People like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dana White. We've seen Senator Marco Rubio trickling in here. House Speaker Mike Johnson is also on the way. So it's also important to see who's going to be around him in
That's
this
going to
moment.
matter to Donald Trump a lot. It's going to matter to Donald Trump a lot who actually steps up and shows up here tonight, who left their races early before they were called or right after they were called to come to Palm Beach. And we were told that there were a lot of people considering doing that because of the fact that they know Donald Trump cares about loyalty. They were considering coming if it looked like the race was going the way that it currently looks like it's going. So we can likely expect more House members here that we've seen already.
Yeah, and we know family members obviously have been around him. We saw, I was told by someone that Barron Trump was with him in Mar-a-Lago earlier. Obviously, Melania Trump went and voted with him at their polling place just a few hours after y'all got back from Michigan from that early morning rally. Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, I think that's an open question. They do live down here, obviously, in South Florida, but they have not been prominent faces on the campaign trail.
And even during his trials, I mean, one thing to remember is that they came and saw him after he was convicted, but stayed behind closed doors at all times. They were up at Trump Tower. They never made an appearance with him. He has really done this campaign without any of their help. They've been with just Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get some more water.
Thank you. Jake,
and,
back to you.
Thanks so much. We have a major projection in the battle for control
Hang on.
of Congress.
I was about to get some water, but now we're talking Congress.
The Republicans will win
yeah.
back control of the United States Senate. We can make this projection because CNN projects Republicans win the U.S.
So
Senate
I was right
seat
about
in
that.
Nebraska. The GOP picking up enough seats to reclaim the majority that they lost 4 years ago. This is a huge victory for Donald Trump's party as we're still waiting the final outcome of the presidential race. And Dana Bash, there were a lot of questions in the air about what was going to happen. Ultimately, what happened with the U.S. Senate is what we generally thought was going to happen. Republicans now have control.
It was a very, very good map for Republicans this time around and a very bad map for Democrats. One of the questions was whether or not these kind of brand name, long serving Democrats would be able to kind of outperform the realities of their states, whether it's John Tester in Montana or Sherrod Brown in Ohio. And the answer is no.
Yeah, Sherrod Brown is a great example because he came to office in 2006 during a kind of blue wave, survived 2018.
Yeah, we'll let them talk.
Always there for when
I'm going to get some more water
for Democrats, and that was not this year.
I mean, let's talk about the significance of a Republican Senate if, and I repeat, if Donald Trump is elected president. It means that they can confirm without any Democratic votes any appointment he makes to his cabinet, to the government, to the Supreme Court, should there be a vacancy. It's an enormous advantage to a president. And at this point, we haven't talked about it much, but in the House, although that hasn't been decided yet, the Republicans have flipped 3 Democratic seats. The Democrats haven't flipped a single Republican seat. So there is the possibility here of a complete united Republican government with Donald Trump as the president and with a Republican House and Senate, which means that in terms of appointments, in terms of immigration policy, economic policy, environmental policy, you name it, he could have a pretty blank check.
So, for example, on immigration policy, which is something that we think that Donald Trump would, if he wins, want to enact something along the lines of the proposals he's made. Republicans have said, we passed an immigration bill, H.R. 2, which was a
compromise package.
It wasn't a compromise package. It was a tough immigration bill.
At least.
It was H.R. 2.
He's talking about the House.
Sorry. The House version is what I'm saying. The Senate version was bipartisan. The House version, when you ask Speaker Johnson, what have you accomplished? He said, well, we passed all this legislation, but it just died in the Senate because Chuck Schumer wouldn't even allow a vote on it, assuming that Republicans hold on to the House, and we have no idea, but it's not crazy.
But you're getting into a level of detail that I think, I mean,
my point is just that
Donald Trump campaigned on mass deportations. So this
what I'm saying is
this
he could
vote was for.
That's what I'm saying. My point is whatever Donald Trump wants, if they have the Senate now, if they get the White House and if they get the House, if they keep the House, whatever Donald Trump wants will become law. There will not be the backstop of the Senate controlled by Democrats.
Did not want the backstop. This is what I'm trying to say. We may be looking at a map of voters who weren't looking to give him a backstop.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not to get too sort of dorky here, but I think it is still possible, if he is president, that some big pieces of legislation could be stopped in the United States Senate because legislation at this point still needs 60 votes. But it is the cabinet who he's going to have in his, not just in and around his administration, but again, the bench. That is all regular majority.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it because the Supreme Court They ruled on the Chevron deference and basically said executive agencies can't have the untrammeled authority to do what they want. It has to be passed by Congress. And you could end up with the Democratic minority. I mean, again, all of this is somewhat speculative. Democratic minority in the Senate being able to block legislation and the Trump agencies not able to enact it on their own.
Yep. Just one of many things that we would be talking about if Donald Trump does, in fact, win. We're not there yet. Jake, over to you.
Thanks, Dan.
Interesting.
Let's bring you back to the key race alert and where we stand with the battleground states that we have not called yet. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.1% to Kamala Harris's 47.8%. Donald Trump has an almost 220,000 vote lead. That's with 93% of the estimated vote in from the great Keystone State. Michigan, Donald Trump up 52.4% to Harris's 45.8%. Donald Trump
so a good chunk of the vote to count. So I mean, I get why they're not calling it. There might still be hope for those they're looking forward to Harris.
In Wisconsin, Donald Trump 51.2%, Harris 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 120,000 vote lead with an estimated 89% of the vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead 50% to Harris's 49.1%. Donald Trump has a 16,000-plus vote lead with an estimated 53% of the vote in from Arizona. In Nevada, Donald Trump in the lead there, 51%. To Kamala Harris's 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 37,000 vote lead with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. John King.
You're looking at the map and we're watching, we're just trying to see. The only question really now is, well, the first question is, can the vice president win Pennsylvania? If she does not, Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. And then from there, if she wins Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still has other paths to 270. So for the vice president, your priority is here. And you'll notice all three of those states are red. That's the so-called blue wall. The blue wall is ruby red at the moment, not done counting the votes. So let's turn it off and wander through them, starting in your home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Key thing here, these are close battleground states. Look at the size of Donald Trump's lead as we go through them. Right, Joe Biden wins this by 80,000 and change 4 years ago. Donald Trump is ahead with 93% of the vote in by 219,000 votes plus.
Big lead.
So that's hard to overcome. When you're at 93%, and statewide so far you're getting 48% if you round that up. Do the math at home. She has to get well in excess of that, hugely in excess of that when you're at 93% to have a chance to catch up. Hugely, way overperform where she has been throughout the night. Miracles happen. So you look here at Philadelphia. You gotta come here. This gets pretty stunning when you go through it county by county. We're not at the final results. Maybe the end will look a little better than this. Maybe the vice president can come back. But again, you look at here, Donald Trump getting 21% in Philadelphia, the vice president getting 78%. You go back when Joe Biden won the state, Donald Trump was at 18, the president was at 81. And you're seeing this over and over again. You go out to Bucks County here, Joe Biden at 52%. If you round that up,
see, they're showing that people flipped or they stayed
home.
home.
Here, I said early in the night, if this stays red, Donald Trump will win the Commonwealth.
Maybe it's a little bit of both.
It's still red. Not done, but it's still red. This is the blue-collar suburban area. Your cops, your firefighters move out of the city to get a little house with a patch of grass. It gets a little bit bigger out here when you move out, but look at this. It's just, she's at 48%, 49% if you round that up. The President of the United States was at 52. Again, it's a very competitive battleground county, but to win Pennsylvania, you want to be on the top end in Bucks County, and at the moment, the vice president is on the losing end. Then you move over here to Lehigh County. This was the big conversation, right? Both candidates there in the final days because of the Madison Square Garden event.
She wasn't able to appeal to those people in the way that Biden did.
Latino votes because of this. Well, at the moment,
Biden does have that way of appealing better to
blue-collar
voters.
51% for the vice president. She's winning the county, but she's not winning the county again.
And granted, she didn't really have a lot of time.
He had a home field advantage, maybe.
It was only her campaign for a certain amount of time.
Donald Trump was at his weakest, I guess, to come out of that. So you can
see how all this plays out.
But we do the math here. And the
for
math
the next
is
few days, I'm
she's
sure.
running behind. That's 53% for the president. And once again, the vice president. So there'll be a lot of conversations about blue-collar workers. Is it sexism? Is it racism? Is it because she didn't break with Biden on cost of living issues? This is going to be the conversation if this map continues. So you come back out again and you look. Here's a place. This is Trump country, Pennsylvania, Luzerne County, right? But you always look at sometimes the margins with it, where the other guy's winning or the other gal's winning. You just want to cut into their margins in a close battleground state. Donald Trump at 60, the vice president at 39%. And you come back here, Joe Biden at 42%. That's the difference. The margins within some of these places, even where you're losing, you have to improve your margins. Where you're winning, run them up. Where you're losing, try to cut the other guy's margins up. And she simply has failed to do that across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I could go on, but the point is the point. And then there's this. Again, in a big state like this, a complicated state like this, this is just Trump country. 70% here, 51% there, a little bit more competitive, but 75% there, 73% there. That's how he does it. And you have to combat that and contrast that. And even in those counties, again, in most of them, Harris not matching where the president was. So that's the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You look at the popular vote when you come on out. Again, Donald Trump lost the popular vote twice. Even when he won the presidency in 2016, he lost the popular vote. He lost it by more than 7 million votes 4 years ago. At the moment,
I don't think Republicans won the
he's 5 million
popular
votes
in
the popular vote. And again, you know Donald Trump would like that trophy.
Before.
In addition to winning 270 electoral votes, which he's not at yet, he's on a path to it, but he's not there yet. He would love that trophy. We'll see if he gets it. Michigan,
George
we're
W.
up to
Bush.
67% now. This has been a slow walk. You're up to 67%, but again, 154,000 votes for the president 4 years ago. Donald Trump's lead is well in excess of that, 224,000 votes. You're at 67%, so there's more vote out. A lot of it is right here. This is essentially it. Just like I said, Philadelphia is it.
Detroit.
If the vice president's going to
give her a big lead,
improbable mathematical comeback in the
but
Commonwealth of
it doesn't
Pennsylvania,
matter. She
it
doesn't
must
get
be based in
Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia. That's where the most people live. That's where the most votes are at. The same for the vice president here in Michigan. Only 32% in Wayne County. But again, this
So
will
I don't
be
know.
the conversation. If we get to the finish line,
It's
the
either-
result is as it is. Look at Donald Trump at 41%.
The red
in Wayne
mirage
County.
is-
That's
is
Detroit
true.
and the suburbs around Detroit.
Or maybe we're waiting on a big
30%
blue
in
shift.
2020, 40% in 2024. If Donald Trump has a 10-point gain,
Very close.
in Detroit,
Be-
that's Detroit, that's Dearborn, that's Hamtramck, that's Wayne, auto factory, auto workers here, inner city Detroit here. That's going to be a giant conversation in the Democratic Party now, much like this was in the late 1980s when Ronald Reagan flipped Macomb County from blue to red. Trump has flipped it back. You see Trump at 57%, 58% if you want to round that up. Again, this will be the conversation after. If this race continues where it's looking right now, 41% for the Democrat in Macomb County right now, 45% for Joe Biden 4 years ago. So pick your challenge. Black voters in the urban area, cities in general, blue-collar workers in places like Macomb County, blue-collar workers in places like Luzerne County or Lackawanna County. You keep going on. She's underperforming where Joe Biden was 4 years ago. There can be many reasons for that. I would say one of them was a very effective Trump ad, what she said on The View when they asked her, what would you change? She said, not a thing. The Trump campaign, Trump himself, flawed candidate, although people are going to say, you all said he was a flawed candidate. This looks pretty impressive. But Trump's the ad messaging, the cost of living thing, where she said, not a thing. She tried to amend that answer later, but they turned that around pretty quickly.
It was, without question, and we've been saying this all year, the most professional campaign that Trump has had in his 3 runs for president. I came over here because I want you to show me, even in the blue states, what's going on. Let's, like, for example, take me to New Jersey. All right, that's a state. I mean, just look at that. 51. It's with 80%, 88% in, so not all the votes in, but 51% to 46%. How did Joe Biden do?
5 points. 5 points better for Donald Trump. Look at him more than him. You know, if you're a Democrat in a blue state, you're trying to figure out what's happening to my party. You know, is it all Trump? And I mean, there's a separate fascinating conversation going because a lot of the people who are going to be in that Republican Senate with a president Donald Trump that continues to go where it's going. You know as well as I do.
People that voted for Biden.
They wish he was not the leader of their party. But he is, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they know that. And so they're going to work with it. But again, so the Republican candidate for president 4 years ago got 41% in New Jersey, and the Republican candidate for president this time is getting 47% in New Jersey. There'll be all sorts of, oh, nobody spent any ad money there. Oh, nobody focused on the presidential race there. Oh, make all the excuses you want. That's a problem.
But it was a 16-point spread last time, and it's a 5-point spread now. What about New York? Take me to New York.
Come back out and come back in. The Empire State.
Okay, so she's up by 11 percentage points. Not all the votes in, 92%. So 11 points. How did Biden do?
Yeah, it's a lot more.
23.
23.
From 23 points to 11
So, I mean,
points.
even in the states
So,
where
I mean,
she's winning, it's not.
And actually, you know what? Show me some of the
not great
counties. Can you go into like Queens and?
You can come down here and you can get into Manhattan here.
So Manhattan.
And Manhattan is not Donald Trump territory.
Right.
It wasn't then.
I mean, like Queens, Bronx.
Now, you can wander around in here if you want to come over here to Bronx. So 27% for Donald Trump. Yeah.
83%.
Yeah.
So he made inroads in these outer boroughs as well. It's all about the blue wall as we wait for a final verdict in the battlegrounds of Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, 3 potential deciders in this presidential race. We're expecting Donald Trump to speak any moment, but first we're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.
President of the United States.
Yeah, I think we'll see where things go tomorrow. We'll definitely tune back in on some more election coverage. I'm not sure when I'll get started. I'll just kind of be up and looking around at what everyone's reporting, and I'll probably keep up with more of this tonight as I'll probably stay awake a little later myself. But yeah, if we take a look just, one more time here at what we kind of started with was looking at the Associated Press, and they have things set a little higher. CNN was saying 187 for Harris and 246 for Trump. Here at the Associated Press, they're saying 214 for Harris, 247 for Trump. And you know, they're just kind of showing here that Trump has a lead in these 3 states, and that is concerning because, you know, Pennsylvania is one of them. So that could go badly. Now, Arizona could go either way. Alaska is definitively Trump. Hawaii is probably definitively Kamala Harris. I don't know why. Okay. And Nevada is, you know, still reporting, but obviously Donald Trump has a lead there, which is unusual because last time Nevada was blue. Let's see, Ruben Gallego. Let's actually check. Does he still have? Okay, my bad. Not Las Vegas. Yeah, still has a lead over Kerry Lake. So they haven't called the race, but it's still a pretty good lead, and it's hopeful. Ted Cruz, 90% reporting. They've definitely called that, where Colin Allred has lost to Ted Cruz. Of course, Josh Hawley has definitively won in Missouri. Rick Scott in Florida. Timothy Kaine has won Virginia. Kirsten Gillibrand has won New York. And Elizabeth Warren maintains Massachusetts, as well as Bernie Sanders maintaining Vermont and Adam Schiff over in California. So, I mean, some of these are somewhat surprising, some are not surprising. Okay, Klobuchar was able to spin that around a little bit there. So let's see, did they say with 75% reporting? Yeah, it wasn't looking super great for her earlier tonight, but I think things have kind of moved around a little bit. And Marsha Blackburn, of course, you know, definitive chokehold on Tennessee. Regardless of the larger cities like Nashville and Memphis. Nashville and Memphis being largely Democrat. And then same over here. In Florida, some of its bigger cities skew blue. Okay, and it's looking like the independent candidate in Maine coming along quite well. Yeah, no Senate races in New Hampshire. Okay. And then if we're looking at the House, it's looking like Republicans might be able to do. They've already said that due to the 2 seats that they've gained here, they will take the House or the Senate. But it's looking a little tighter on the House, but it's kind of the way I see it. It is starting to look like they could potentially also take the House and the Senate, and they may very well take the presidency. Or if they don't get the presidency, it's possible Harris will be president and not have the Senate or the House, and won't be able to do all that much. And then midterm elections will hit, and sure enough, either, you know, Democrats will make a comeback then, or, you know, Republicans will just further stomp them. And you'll end up with a horrific lame duck president kind of situation here. But I mean, you can see just in general, when it comes to the votes here, 61 million to 66 million, it's pretty close. It's still a lot of people. I think one of the things that we pulled up earlier on the calculator was adding up the amount of voters. Biden had 81 million, Trump had 74 million, and we add that together to get the total, at least the total number of people that voted in the Democratic and Republican parties. You know, we weren't calculating the independents, you know, third-party voters. But yeah, just to kind of get that number and get an idea of, are there more people voting in this election, or did more people stay home? Were less people invested in this race? I think that's going to be the interesting thing to figure out. There's still more time. There's still a lot of votes to be counted before that data is solidified, but that was my guess, is that people have either chosen to stay home, didn't vote, or they voted third party, or they voted, you know, maybe people that voted for Biden in the last election voted for Trump this election, you know? And that could be what we're looking at, and that's why he might have a lead in some of these states where, you know, in the previous election he was down, 10% or more. So that's shocking. We'll see. So once again, I hope you enjoyed our coverage here. I have plenty of more videos that I'm working on the channel, covering a lot of the major issues that we face. But I want to finish up some of the election coverage before we dive back into the issues and start talking about different forms of policy and just various opinions and discussions around politics. So we will dive more into that. You are watching the Aaron Shack Politics channel. I hope you're enjoying this. Definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos and live streams. I have some more news on the way, but let's stick with the election stuff. I'll be right back at it tomorrow as soon as there is more for us to talk about. Get some rest, have a good night, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one.